Have you ever heard of a vampire scared of humans? This story is about a vampire who lived in recluse all his life, but still ended up dead. Now he stands in a castle full of noble knights, being treated like one himself. The same people who hunted him down, tortured him, and killed him in his past life now praise his heroism. This time, he chose not to run. He's going to become strong enough to be an untouchable diva. And it all started on the night he died. It rained heavily as the army of holy knights stood guard against a vampire. One of the knights steps forward and instantly drives his blade straight through the vampire's body. He then starts accusing the vampire of slaughtering humans and hiding for 6 months like a coward. The knight smirks, cursing the vampire for the sin of deceiving the church and refusing the holy knight's judgment. The vampire's eyes widen as the knight further reveals that he didn't catch him earlier on purpose. This man really said, "I delayed justice for better PR." He joined the pursuit team late and let the vampire run wild all this time, to drag it out to make his achievement shine even more. Bro turned a manhunt into a career highlight. LinkedIn final boss. Furious, the vampire prepares its deadly claws and lunges forward. But that only solidified his demise. In truth, the vampire knew that only the strong survive in this world. Regardless of what he wants, everything is decided by the power of the strong. And so, he ran. As everything comes to a blur, he wonders about his fate if given another chance at life. Suddenly, the vampire jolts awake, panting heavily, confused. He looks around. His severed neck, his arms, and his legs were all fine despite his dying a few moments earlier. No blood, no disassembled body parts. He looks around, recognizing it as a tent he lived in before the holy knight started hunting him, right before his life turned into a tragedy compilation. This means he is back in time to 6 months back. Just before the subjugation squad started on his tail, this means he has truly been given another shot at life. His tent was located in a remote forest near Broadwin village. Humans rarely came here, which is exactly why Eugene chose it. Not for peace, but for survival. Pathetic vampire barely scraping by from day to day. A vampire scared of humans? Yeah, evolution really fumbled that one. His name was Eugene. Originally, he did not crave human blood, but a long time ago, he gave in to his instincts just once. That was the mistake. The next day, mercenaries were everywhere. 5 days later, holy knights scour every village. Whether it took a month or a year, they took their time. But they always found Eugene. Clearly a bad decision. Out of fear, he survived on animal blood like a broke vampire on a budget plan. That went on for 12 whole years. But now he does not know how he came back to life in the past. But it is certain that only one thing matters. Eugene has been given this chance, and he cannot make the same mistakes again. If hiding and holding his breath still leads to death, then he has to become so strong that they cannot kill him even if they find him. That is the vampire's way of living. And so from now on, his survival strategy will change. It is a fact that vampires can absorb power through bloodsucking. The stronger the owner of the blood, the greater the power he can obtain. And so, with the weapon in his hand, he makes his way towards the Lord of the Forest. With his current trash, body dodging is the best Eugene can do. But if he can inflict even a small wound, he can drink the creature's blood. Until now, Eugene's method of survival was 2. But now that he knows that path leads to failure, there is no need to hesitate. Right now, more than anyone else, he, Eugene, is desperate for power. And so determined, he lunges towards the Lord of the Forest and stabs it with his weapon. However, the creature sways his body, causing him to go flying back, injuring him in the process. This makes Eugene wonder if he underestimated the strength of a roamer. Unlike monsters that dwell in the demonic realm, these creatures wander the natural world, even in environments without mana. Some roamers possess magic stones. They are treated as more precious than jewels. To a roamer, the magic stone is its core. If Eugene can find the magic stone, he might be able to turn this around. But the gap between them? It's not big. It's embarrassing. At this rate, the creature could snap his neck before Eugene even finishes his next thought. The creature bites into him and drags him into the water. As he begins to become motionless, he wonders if he would get a third chance at life now, but he does not think that highly of himself. This is exactly why he always crawled, held his breath, and struggled just to survive. Determined to survive, he bites into the creature's tongue, wanting to win. And so, biting into it, he begins to suck its blood, getting stronger. He constantly reminded himself that there is no next time or any other chance. He needs to seize this one because survival means standing atop the blood of others. And so after reaching into the Lord of the creature's core, he takes the mana stone. With the creature now spliced into halves, he gets out of the water victoriously. He has planned not to run away anymore and swears to choose the path of battle. That is to seize blood and victory. Eugene managed to absorb the creature's mana pretty well. The magic power contained within this roamer's mana stone exceeds his expectations. Its color was different from what he had heard, and it was huge. But the ability he gained from the stone, Eugene can armor his skin with black scales. With this, he might block the sunlight enough for him to move around during the day. Eugene first learned about the Lord of the Forest when he was captured by mercenaries. Back then, the wetlands were not very large, so no one knew of the Lord of the Forest's existence. But as the rainy season and floods expanded their territory, the beast revealed itself by attacking the mercenaries. In the chaos, Eugene managed to drink a mouthful of the injured lord's blood. Thanks to that, he was able to take down a few mercenaries and escape. He realized its potency then, and knew he had to drain its blood completely. He has accumulated some power, but it is still far from enough to face the Holy Knight Direct. Eugene needs to avoid unwinnable battles until he is absolutely certain he can win. Plus, the Holy Knight Jung can find him wherever he is if he sets his mind to it, as he seems to have an exceptional ability to track monsters or the undead. So instead of living and hiding any longer, Eugene plans to build up enough power to face the Holy Knights when they come for him. He notices that the sun will be up soon, and it is too early to fully test the stone's power, so he decides to head back before sunrise. However, he is distracted by a hissing sound. The voice says that the false master who asserted its territory and turned its beautiful lake into a wetland is finally dead. It expresses its gratitude towards Eugene, saying that he must pay the price for fearlessly trespassing here and staining this land with blood. The presence grows heavier. Its eyes glow red as it declares that the forest will rage and the earth itself will reject him. Dramatic. Very dramatic. But the spirit thought that the bald vampire was not able to hear him, considering that. Sensing a spirit's presence is a feat only a selective few have, but it becomes extremely shocking as the vampire looks dead straight at him, questioning who he is. The spirit glitches for a second before revealing its identity as Miran, a water spirit, saying it was the original master of this place, but that crocodile scumbag stole its turf 15 years ago, so Miran became a slave. Worst landlord situation in history. Miran happily thanks Eugene for killing the crocodile idiot, as now this place will be purified. But it mumbles how he definitely saw a bald old man getting eaten by the crocodile. But now there's this completely different guy standing here looking like a glow-up commercial. Miran questions Eugene if that was a disguise to take down the crocodile. But Eugene becomes distracted as he sees one of the tattoos on his body disappearing. Miran also compliments the cool tattoos and asks what they mean. Eugene says he does not know apart from the fact that they have been there since the beginning. Eugene has been a vampire for as long as he can remember, as he was born this way. Even in his earliest memories, these 10 tattoos were already etched onto his body. Since he couldn't recall anything from his distant past, for some reason he just focused on keeping his head down and surviving. He never stopped to question who he really was. These tattoos are some kind of imprint or spell. He wonders if one of them just unlocked because of what happened today. He tells Miran to guard the forest well and that he will be leaving now. Miran becomes shocked, saying she hasn't had someone to talk to in ages and now Eugene is leaving. It expresses how it is bored to death. As time passes, fewer beings can see spirits. It suggests that they become conversation partners. Miran tries to bribe him, saying that he can offer pure water to fix that dry, pale, dehydrated vampire aesthetic. Miran says that it is a water fairy after all, so its water taste is to die for. And to prove it, he literally vomits water out and offers it. Yeah, that's the offer. Drink it. Eugene was disgusted and told him to get lost. Miran tries to convince him that it can also purify water so he can drink from anywhere instantly, but Eugene refuses to do so. A few days pass by. In the Broadwin village, the villagers gather in panic, alerting everyone that the red-eyed monster has visited. They stare at the multiple dead animals and wonder if they can really take all of it. Usually, this so-called red-eyed animal tosses the villagers some game once every full moon, and it is not even time for him to come yet. This is why they were a bit surprised. There was a sinner living at the foot of the mountain, far from the village. The villagers called him the red-eyed monster. He has lived near the village for over 10 years without causing any harm. Instead, he would visit late at night once every full moon to share his game. No one knows what goes on inside a sinner's mind. The villagers stare at this red-eyed monster in confusion as he questions if he can step into the village for a moment. 10 years ago, when he first appeared, everyone was afraid. But since he offered hunted beasts as if paying taxes, no one paid him any mind. And so this strange relationship continued for over a decade. The chief of the village says it has been a while and asks if he has something to say. This red-eyed monster says he has been living far from the village all this time because he contracted a disease. However, after a long period of seclusion, he has recovered and has come here to share the good news. Since he has received much help from the village over the years, he wishes to return the favor. He removes his mask, shockingly, and others say that if anything should happen to the village, they can call him at any time. Calling such a beauty a red-eyed monster for years on end was indeed tragic. It seems the monster living in the forest must be one half elf or a noble. They couldn't believe he was that good-looking and still wore a mask. Miriam, the water spirit, pouts in annoyance. It asks Eugene what he is thinking, having given away all that game they worked so hard to catch. It yells that vampires are all about blood, slaughter, and death. However, Eugene calmly says that in human society, making acquaintances is important and showing goodwill as well. But the water spirit couldn't understand why he would mingle with them if he were not going to eat them. It also reminds Eugene that he said they're leaving in a few days. Therefore, they do not need this place. But Eugene quietly puts on his mask, saying he used to think things were unrelated, but he found out that is not always the case, and he cannot stand by and watch what is about to happen. Soon, mercenaries will storm this place, and everyone in the village will die. This surprises the water spirit. The mercenaries are coming to take a boy from the village. They intend to kidnap him and take him to the castle of Lord Tiwin, the local lord. In the process, they will kill all the villagers to eliminate any witnesses. If Eugene does not stop this event, it will lead to the Holy Knights invade. As for the water spirit, it was shocked and wondered if what Eugene said was true. Even if it is, how does he know that? Miran has been with Eugene for a few days, but she cannot read him. Eugene says that before that incident occurs, he should try earning a little trust from the villagers and assure them that he is harmless. Their conversation gets interrupted as Eugene suddenly stops in his tracks. In the distance, they see some armed men approaching. There were ambushers who were planning to sneak into the village. They notice how Eugene is not armed and is alone. It will be trouble if he shouts. One of the men began to prepare his axe to kill Eugene. While the water spirit panics, Eugene remains unfazed. He instantly dodges the attack and ends up killing that man ruthlessly. The other ambushers watched in utter shock. His claws are filled with blood as he tells the water spirit that he has to build trust with the people, so he does not look suspicious. It is because he is going to kill every last one of these mercenaries. The mercenaries began to cause chaos as they realized that this guy was a vampire and not a weak human. But one of them suggests it is actually a good thing because if they capture him alive and hand him over to the church, they will get a huge bounty. They saw a monster and thought, easy money. Financial decisions made by people with zero survival instinct. Eugene doesn't even bother arguing. He just starts moving, and suddenly it's not a hunt anymore, it's a cleanup. The men did underestimate him, but he was too strong for them. He alerts the men that it is getting dark, and night is his peak time. Plus, it is the best time to hide blood. The mercenaries regroup and decide to attack the vampires simultaneously. In the end, they were all dead. When the villagers later found the dead bodies, they were in utter shock. The chief of the village asks the red-eyed man if this is his work, but Eugene denies finding them while returning from hunting when he was checking traps on his way back. He points to the black wolf, saying the culprits are these creatures. He deduces that these people were attacked while heading towards the village. Eugene further adds that there were many, so he waited for them to be distracted by eating the corpses. He killed a few, but there were originally more than the mercenaries. The ones that escaped might still be watching them. Bro lies so smoothly it's concerning. The chief says these black wolves are creatures notorious for being troublesome in this area, and he couldn't believe that the red-eyed man handled them all alone. One of the villagers revealed to the chief that there are definitely wolf claw marks on the corpses. The villages assessed the other corpses as well, and they concluded that they had all been mauled by wolves. The chief apologizes to Eugene for doubting him unnecessarily. Eugene then questions what they will do with the bodies. The chief says they cannot just leave them as food for beasts and they should bury them in the village. Miran watched Eugene lie effortlessly and was impressed. After killing the mercenaries, wolves attracted by the smell of blood appeared and took care of things. That's all. And Eugene just carved tooth marks into the corpses to disguise their traces. But the water spirit couldn't understand why he was so concerned about his image. If he left this place now, he wouldn't have to bother with all this trouble. He could tell Eugene had something in mind. He then watches Eugene hand a letter to the village chief. Eugene reveals that he was thinking of delivering all belongings, so he searched the bodies. He says there appears to be a letter the mercenaries were carrying. The chief recognized the seal of Lord Tiwin, but as he began to read the letter, he remained stunned. He instantly asks the villagers if Pelid is in the village now. He then reveals that Pelid might be the illegitimate child of Lord Tiwin, and there were mercenaries here to take him away. Earlier, Eugene stood victorious against the mercenaries. The mercenaries later apologized for bombarding a village under a vampire's rule, but he assured Eugene that they did not come here to hunt vampires. He continues to reveal that any legitimate child of the Tiwin family who governs this territory is hiding and living in that village. They thought he was missing, but he was actually living there, hiding his identity, and had only come here to find that child. but Eugene accuses him of lying, saying he planned to wipe out the village. The leader panics, surprised that Eugene knows a lot. He says the truth is they were not hired by the family head of Tiwin. Their clients are the legitimate children of the family, Lady Chimera and Sir Bertell. It might be a request due to noble political problems, and they only came here to kidnap the illegitimate child. He asks for the vampire's mercy. Eugene grits his lips in frustration as he hears the familiar name, Bertell Tiwin. He was the person in charge of the vampire pursuit unit and the knight who tormented him, along with Young. Bertell probably did not directly order the mercenaries to massacre the villagers. That was something that happened purely due to mercenaries' greed. However, that became the cause for Eugene to be discovered by the Holy Knights. It is because an entire village disappearing led to a large-scale mobilization of personnel searching for the culprit. The leader of the mercenaries confessed to Eugene that they just thought it was a good opportunity to make a fortune. If they had known a vampire resided there, they would not have done it. Eugene then turned to leave and told him to be careful of wolves on his way back. The mercenary began to sing praises of Eugene right before being beheaded by him in a single shot. Eugene obviously could not let them live now that they have discovered he is a vampire. Besides, the wolves that smelled the blood are drooling as well. Back in the present, the villagers were extremely confused to hear the illegitimate child lore. They all began to play Sherlock Holmes themselves, wondering how Pellet is a noble. One of the villagers reveals that his mother died last year and he has been living alone since then. Plus, he came to their village 8 years ago. The chief stares at the letter once again and wonders what they are supposed to do. Eugene suggests that they take the boy to the Lord's castle. He says the mercenaries could not handle the fierce beasts of this area, but he, having lived long in the forest, can escort the boy to the city while avoiding them. The chief hesitates to send him alone on such a dangerous mission, but Eugene assures him that as a knight, he cannot ignore it. Miran continues watching Eugene lie as his life depends on it. But he did not expect this vampire to roleplay as a knight. Even the villagers were shocked to hear his true identity. You didn't smile, saying his introduction was late. He then introduces himself as Yan Eugene of the Eugene family. Miran gets ignored as he breaks down, wondering who would believe such a foolish statement, because this is the most unserious serious man he's ever seen. And somehow, everyone believes him. The villagers instantly lunge at him with questions from every direction, but instead of panicking, Eugene is low-key enjoying the attention. The water spirit tries to warn him that even if it is a lie, this is too much. But Eugene reminds him of their earlier reaction, saying these people have never seen a noble. To them, anyone with confidence and a sword might as well be royalty. And just like that, his bluff works perfectly. It is a village making a fuss over the fact that a boy hiding in a mountain village is a noble. The villagers instantly let down their guard and erupted in cheers, wondering why he was living in seclusion in the forest for over 10 years. They asked multiple other questions about whether he was doing night training or something else. Eugene plays along smoothly, giving vague but believable answers about cutting ties with society and surviving alone. The villagers eat it up. They even started pitying him, thinking he endured years of hardship like some tragic hero. But the chief says their village is poor, so they cannot afford to give him a separate reward. Eugene assures him that it is fine. He then asks to rest in the village tonight to relieve his fatigue. The chief laughs, saying that much is not difficult, but it is humble to host a knight, so he suggests he sleep at their house tonight. The next morning, Eugene stares at his skin-hardening ability, which he obtained from the lord of this forest. He places his hand out in the sun. Covering himself with black scales blocks sunlight to some extent. Thanks to this, there will be fewer problems on the journey. The water spirit calls him ignorant for telling such a lie. He says he is a knight even though he cannot read. Eugene agrees that he might get caught someday, but it does not matter since he will be leaving anyway. The water spirit questions Eugene's goal. It points out that Eugene lived quietly in the forest all this time, but he is suddenly building friendships with villagers and even taking requests. But their conversation gets interrupted as someone calls out to Eugene, saying that they can depart for the journey now. Eugene gets up, saying that sometimes humans believe a person's authority more than cumbersome words. He can tell as many lies as he wants, but putting status first can reduce 100 lies to 10. Fake it till you make it. This village is probably the only place that would accept a makeshift lie as it is. But nobles are highly likely not to believe it easily, and so from now on, he is going to make the lie real. Build trust with good deeds, so far packaged lies as truth with skill. Before leaving, the villagers gather to send him off like he's some legendary figure. The chief hands Eugene a letter and entrusts Pellet, the supposed noble child, in his care. Pellet stares at Eugene curiously and says he will be in his care now. Eugene knows that to make all these lies true, he needs a higher status, and so using this illegitimate child, he plans to become a real noble. Just like that, the two men depart for their journey. Eugene looks at a place in the distance and asks Pellet if it is called Brahms. Pellet guesses it must be, considering the sign. Upon questioning, Peled reveals his late mother taught him how to read. His mother was of low status, so she did not learn formally, but she told him the person whom she loved taught her. Peled never dreamed that person would be Sir Tiwin, though. The water spirit hears this and suggests that Eugene ask the kid to teach him how to read as well. Eugene does exactly that, surprising Peled. He points out that he is a knight yet cannot read. Eugene says being a knight is just in name only. It is a fallen family, so it is nothing to brag about. What kept him alive until now wasn't writing but a single sword. Eugene is aware that once trust is gained, it will become thick enough to cover all lives. The water spirit watches Eugene do top-notch, Oscar-worthy acting and laughs. Peled, already emotionally invested, completely buys into Eugene's tragic backstory and even apologizes for doubting him. He says he must have been prejudiced since Eugene was called a monster in the village. He promises to confirm with his own two eyes rather than rumors. It concludes that if he is from a martial family, he might have neglected reading, and so he promises to teach him in his spare time so he won't be embarrassed in front of others. However, his speech gets interrupted as an arrow is about to hit his eye, but Eugene senses it immediately and grabs it before the boy can be blinded. Eugene and Peled look behind to see some men. Peled's face drains of its colors as he recognizes them as robbers. The robbers threaten the two to put down all their luggage and everything in their pockets, but before he could complete his threat, his neck was severed by Eugene within seconds. The robbers were instantly stunned while the child became nauseated to see bloodshed. On the other side, Eugene stood unfazed and unwavering. He continues to behead the rest of the men, with no mercy, no hesitation, clear-cut execution. Peled is understandably traumatized, on the verge of throwing up, while Eugene stands there completely unfazed. To him, this is just reality. Survival isn't pretty. Now, only one man was left alive, but that doesn't mean he wasn't injured at all. Eugene had previously pierced a spear through his chest. He approaches the man, saying he cannot understand why humans try to kill and steal if someone is weaker than them. He pushes the spear deeper into the man's body, causing him to groan in pain. He asks the man if it is okay to bully easily if they look weak. He then turns to Peled and asks if he will be able to understand things like this if he learns to read. Peled, however, was too stunned to form coherent words. Eugene reminds the boy of how he said he would watch and confirm with his own eyes. This is what the boy believes is up to him, but he will not let a single drop of blood touch his body. The scene shifts to a busy marketplace. The water spirit seemed ecstatic to see so many fascinating things. Peled warns Eugene to be careful if he happens to be shopping here. He reveals that he has been here a few times, following the village chief and the merchants. Tyranny is severe, so it is easy to get ripped off. Even the village chief was at a loss every time he came. But Eugene knows he needs money first to be careful. He sees something of interest in a shop and approaches the stall. He tells the shopkeeper he wants to sell some pelts and asks for the price. The shopkeeper takes one look at it and is taken aback to see it as a black wolf belt. It was surprising to see so many pelts, considering it's a rare beast around here. He then assesses the buyer's appearance. Judging by his shabby appearance, he could tell Eugene was a merchant but a wanderer. He smirks internally, knowing he is perfect for ripping off. The shopkeeper then begins to put on an act, saying that the damage to the belt is severe and it might cost only 18 silvers. But he is immediately intimidated by the person's red eyes the moment Eugene locks eyes with him. He could feel the seller's predatory aura kicking in. The merchant starts sweating, slowly raising the price without even being asked. 25 silver. He continues to increase the price in a state of fear and confusion, but this shabby buyer wasn't satisfied and wanted more. The shopkeeper was not used to such a situation, as he was the one ripping others off. It was finally when he said that he would give 30 silver coins that Eugene called a deal. Even Peled remained astonished. That is how you bargain, ladies. Later that night, Eugene stares at a piece of paper. To him, the writings on it looked like earthworms. He had managed to learn the basics from Peled, but he is far from reading properly. He gets distracted as the water spirit compliments his clothes. He says this is worth the money spent. Eugene says that unlike their worries, it was a market with generous hearts. The water spirit says he should have come stronger and bought expensive silk, but Eugene says he is fine if it blocks sunlight. This shocks the water spirit, and he motivates him to enjoy life more. He reveals to Eugene that vampires are the nobles among nobles, wearing silk clothes in a magnificent castle where moonlight shines, ordering servants around and living a luxurious life, consuming fresh blood like wine. To succeed, you must burn with ambition. Eugene is surprised to see how much knowledge he possesses, considering he has only lived in the wetlands. The water spirit reveals that he was originally in the spirit's realm. Sometimes, seniors who made it big in the human realm come back and give a lot of useful advice. Unless he gets hit by a silver knife or stake, Eugene will live at least 200 years. So, he urges Eugene to try learning this in art. That includes some ancient script and the imperial language as well. Eugene becomes annoyed and asks if he knows how to read. Then, Miran denies it, to which Eugene asks if there is anything besides making drinking water he can do. Peled staggers his way towards Eugene and questions who he was talking to just now. Eugene says he was just talking to himself and asks if his stomach is okay. Peled apologizes for showing such an unsightly appearance. He says when he was dressing the rabbit, he remembered what happened this morning, making him nauseated. It made sense considering ordinary people would not be used to corpses. Peled assures him that he still has stamina left and the night is long. He then excitedly reveals they still have plenty of papers, so he will teach Juogen writing as much as he wants. And so, they spent the night learning. Eugene questions if writing is originally this easy to learn, but Peled says it is he who is amazing. He reveals that he was said to learn quite fast, but it took him months just to learn it all. Eugene then tells the child that when he gets there, just knowing how to read might not be enough, especially since he is becoming a noble child overnight. Peled becomes serious and says his mother did not tell him the details either, or he has never really thought about it. He says he does not have expectations that his father will welcome him in the first place. As if they couldn't, conversations hadn't been interrupted the whole journey enough. A swarm of men approach them. The leader greets them and says they cannot find a proper spot to camp. Eugene takes a look at them and sees proper weapons, armor, and even formation. They are real mercenaries, unlike the drifters they have met so far. The leader of the mercenaries points out how there is a child in their group and asks what his destination is. Eugene knows it will only raise suspicion if he lies clumsily. Therefore, Eugene reveals to them that their destination is Sir Tiwin's castle. The man reveals that they're also on their way to the castle and questions if it would be alright to share the spot they offer. To share alcohol, water, and lamb with them, but another mercenary makes his way forward and tries to be rough with them. However, the leader pushes him aside and apologizes. As they exchange greetings, Eugene reveals himself to be a knight. But one of the mercenaries makes fun of him, saying he looks nothing like a knight and accusing him of impersonating one. But Eugene had already told Peled he was a knight, and so he could not tell a different lie. Plus, the mercenaries approach them for different reasons. Whether he is a knight or not probably isn't that important. However, if they interrogate him this persistently, the story changes. Eugene does contemplate killing them all, as their numbers are not even that high, and as always, his hand slowly moves toward his sword. Just then, the leader of the mercenaries puts a firm hand on the mercenary's shoulder and punches him. The man goes flying back, shocking Eugene and Peled. He then bows to Eugene, asking for forgiveness. Eugene accepts the apology and suggests they take their positions. He is aware that there will be many suspicions in the future. To avoid them, he must become a knight as soon as possible. Later, when the knocked out guy, Laban, wakes up, he starts whining about why everyone is acting like Eugene is some big deal. And that's when the captain absolutely humbles him, saying he should know his life was spared thanks to him, where they all could have died. Laban groans in annoyance, questioning what is so scary about that shabby-looking guy who is barely holding an old short sword. The captain says he only judges by appearances and cannot see an inch ahead. He points to Eugene's robe and questions if he knows how much he is wearing it costs. He says that it is a high-quality robe lined with lichen leather. The cheapest ones cost over 10 silver coins. Laban becomes stunned, as it was at least 3 times his monthly salary. Plus, the fact that Eugene was reading a letter means he could read, and so he is not ordinary. The captain further reveals that the knight was about to draw his sword. They would all be dead, or if lucky, maybe he and one more would survive. Upon questioning, the captain reveals that while he was running, his mind was downloading the situation. Earlier, the knight had his right hand inside his robe, and he was slightly dragging his left foot back. If he had been even a moment later, Laban's head would have flown off. He reminds Laban of how terrifying a knight is. With this came the Knight Lore drop. Knights are those born into ancient families who are handed wooden swords at birth, and they spend their entire lives specializing in learning to kill. At the same time, they enter unknown dungeons, fearlessly face the terror of death to stab monsters, and go to battlefields to cut down fellow humans, accumulating merit. Only those who have bloodied their hands that much catch the eyes of the nobility and finally receive knighthood. Plus, impersonating a knight is a grave crime. It is a problem even if they are real, and even more so if they are fake. It is because anyone daring enough to impersonate a knight cannot be normal. You cannot rashly claim to be a knight unless you are confident enough. This is why there are very few individuals who dedicate their lives solely to the sword and become knights. The fact that someone who looks over 20 revealed himself as a knight means he is of considerable skill. It might be possible that he is stronger than the captain. Laban begins to panic, hearing just this. He had clearly messed with the wrong man. The captain further reveals that Eugene mentioned heading to Lord Tiwin's castle. There is talk that a recently discovered dungeon might be opened, and so he might be aiming to be part of that. And since their destinations are the same, they will encounter this man once again. Meanwhile, Eugene is sitting by the fire overhearing everything thanks to his vampire hearing and internally panicking. Because yeah, he did not know knights had this kind of reputation. Bro accidentally picked the highest risk title possible, but instead of backing out, he doubles down. If he's already in too deep, might as well commit. He couldn't understand why the Tiwin family hired such trash when they have mercenaries like this. Or they could have even sent their own soldiers. This is why he found the situation a bit strange. To Laban's shock, the man begins to approach them. He smiles and takes his mask off. Eugene suggests they travel together, as their destination is the same. The mercenaries were almost blinded by his handsome face and couldn't respond at first. The group soon reached Martella village. Fortunately for Eugene, the mercenary group believed he was a knight. Traveling with them to their destination should yield useful information. This is why he suggested they travel together. But the problem is what comes next. As they traveled through Martella, the water spirit revealed to Eugene that it had eavesdropped on those mercenaries' scum gossiping as ordered. Miran relays that Lord Tiwin's health is so poor that it wouldn't be surprising if he died tomorrow. Plus, a new dungeon was recently discovered in his territory. Conquering the dungeon could yield a fortune, but the Tiwin family lacks both funds and troops, so they're unable to open it. But then Miran casually points out the real issue, Pelid. If the Lord dies soon, the kid is basically walking into a death trap. Eugene tries to act like he does not care, but he knows exactly how this story ends. Weak people don't survive in noble politics. They get erased. The reason Lord Tiwin summoned Pelid was probably to see his child's face before he died. The group soon arrives at Lord Tiwin's Rose Castle. Straight up fantasy royalty vibes. Miran is already imagining Eugene living his best vampire noble life there, but Eugene shuts that down immediately. The mercenaries captain greets the eldest son of Rose Castle, revealing that they are the mercenary group sent by the Palin Trading Company. The eldest son reveals himself to be the heir of Tiwin Kamara. The captain reveals that they have brought their boots safely. While the mercenaries become greasy unloading them, Kamara takes one look at the strange hooded figure and questions who he is. Eugene introduces himself as a knight and is about to reveal the child's identity but gets distracted. Another twin child appears with knights questioning his brother about what he is doing right now. Eugene's eyes widen as he recognizes the familiar voice. The voice lectures his brother Kamara about how screening outsiders is his role in guarding the castle. Eugene instantly recognizes his face, and his demeanor instantly darkens. Oh, how could he ever forget that voice? It was the voice of the head of the Vampire Pursuit Squad who first discovered him in hiding. He, along with Jung, tormented him relentlessly, Knight Bertell Tiwin. He was the second son of the family. Hearing the conversation between the two brothers, it was clear that their relationship was strained. Kamara didn't find it convenient to report every little thing he does to his younger brother. Eugene interrupts the two and shows him a letter from Elder Geb of Broadwin village. This immediately takes Bertell by shock. But before he could take the letter, Eugene pulled it away and handed it to Kamara. Bertell takes note of this but says nothing. Kamara becomes shocked as he reads the contents of the letters. The mercenaries were attacked by wolves and wiped out. As if the drama did not want to end there, they had brought an illegitimate son with them to the castle. Pelid awkwardly introduces himself. Kamara chuckles, saying that he is the new little brother. Unlike him, Bertell glares at him in curiosity. Kamara says they were waiting for him and that their father is eager to see him. Bertell coldly ordered someone to take this boy, wash him, and get him into some proper clothes. Bertell turns to leave, but Eugene stops him. He says he would like to talk about the reward first and wants to meet Lord Tiwin. However, Bertell's face turns into a tomato with fury as he refuses to do so. Eugene asks if he can see him for a moment. Bertell reveals that their father's condition is not good now, so it would be difficult. He suggests the man return home after his reward will be paid in gold coins. But Eugene remains adamant, saying he went through a lot of trouble to bring his precious brother back. Bertell becomes even angrier and tells him not to make him say it twice. But his plans come to a boil as Kamara thinks otherwise. He smiles, telling his younger brother that they have to introduce their new brother to him anyway, so there is no problem with seeing him for a moment. Bertell lowers his voice and tries to reason with him that their father cannot even stay awake for an hour a day. They can't let him need some wanderer whose origins they do not even know. Kamara sneers and asks if he is going to control father's schedule as he pleases. He laughs as he turns to face Eugene and apologizes, saying things have become difficult because his little brother is playing as the heir. He places his hand on Eugene's shoulder, suggesting he has a safe trip home. He then walks to Pelid and offers to show him around a bit. Eugene had expected this. They did not intend to let him meet the Lord from the start. Just then, a booming voice makes its way towards them, pointing towards the second son of the family. Bro walks in carrying criminals like grocery bags and casually suggests executing them as an example. Yeah, he's that guy. Turns out he's a top-tier knight who placed third in a major tournament, basically a walking boss fight. Bertell knows he must stay composed in front of Eugene. He takes the rather tall man away, suggesting they go inside and talk, as there are many listening ears here. The the captain of the mercenaries recognized him as Sir Galpedic. Upon Eugene's questioning, the captain reveals he is a knight with a very promising future. Eugene wonders why someone like that would come to a remote place like this. The captain gives it some thought and guesses it is probably because of the newly discovered dungeon opening. Even in a remote place like this, a knight who succeeds in a dungeon's first opening gains great fame. That is because opening a dungeon is so difficult that countless people lose their lives. He says Sir Galpedic is probably using this place as a stepping stone to be knighted by an even greater family. Eugene ponders deeply about it. He then asks the captain of the mercenaries if his request is finished as of today. He then asks for a new request. Inside the Rose Castle, Sir Galpedic and Bertell watch over the caught mercenaries' punishment. Kamara stares at his little brother in disdain. He wants to be the one to open the dungeon. Ever since their father's health worsened, Bertell has been openly aiming for the position of heir. On top of that, the fact that he used his connections with the knights to bring Sir Galpedic here means he is clearly planning to succeed in opening the dungeon himself. If that happens, public support will instantly shift entirely to him. But Kamara had no idea what he should do. It's not like he can just hire any random riffraff at this point. It is then that he is cut off from his thoughts as his servant reveals that Sir Eugene requests to see him. He instantly recognizes the name to be of the knight who brought Pelid earlier. Kamara shows him that they are taking care of the boy and promises to reward him when his father awakens. They settled down, and he thanked Eugene when he gave him the letter in front of his little brother. Thanks to that, he was able to stand a little taller. Eugene smiled, saying he only had business with the lord of this territory, so he was a bit flustered when a third party intervened. Kamara becomes curious and asks what his business is. He questions whether it is necessary to have his identity verified, considering he wants to see his father in person. Eugene agrees but says he also came here to make a proposal to Sir Kamara. He requests to be put on the dungeon subjugation team, shocking Kamara. He instantly bursts into laughter at the absurdity of the situation. He takes one look at the battered situation of his clothes and asks if he called himself a knight. He points out how he heard Eugene killed about 5 robbers on his way here. He asks if he is planning to join the subjugation team to raise his reputation as a knight, or if there is any reason he should play along. Eugene smirks, saying it is not a bad proposal for the current Sir Kamara. He explains that if they succeed in opening the dungeon for their reward, his mercenaries and he will take only their share of 100 silver coins and half of the byproducts, excluding the magic stones. Kamara is taken aback, saying it is such a good deal that it makes him suspicious. Eugene says he is not the one in a rush, Kamara is. Kamara is aware that a knight lives by honor and dies by honor. Judging by this man's attire, he seems to be a wandering knight with no family backing. Plus, seeing as this man has no greed for money, honor must come first after all. He becomes shocked when Eugene says that he is the one who is in a hurry. This instantly reminds him of his political situation with his younger brother. He smirks in amusement. Kamara believes he knows how to choose the cards he can actually use. As for Eugene, he is different from those muscle-headed knights whose brains are made of brawn. He stands up, saying there is no reason to refuse such a decent opportunity, and reaches out his hand to solidify the deal. Eugene remembers how the captain of the mercenary squad revealed that the magic stones are hard to purify and the fees are steep. Byproducts, on the other hand, can be sold immediately for full price and are much more profitable. He also volunteered to introduce Eugene to a trading company he knows well. He was the one who had advised Eugene to take the byproducts for Lord Kamara to definitely accept the offer. Later, Bertell found it laughable that his elder brother was adding new members to the subjugation team this late in the game. Galpedic asserts that a dungeon is not a playground for children. It is a place where if you fall even slightly behind, you are instantly left to die. If someone with mediocre skills hinders their advancement, he is against it. Bertell scoffs, saying it is a knight his brother brought, so he didn't have grand expectations anyway. He reveals to the knight that his brother isn't on good terms with the local nobles and does not exactly have connections either. He suggests Galpedic explain it himself if it comes down to it. Galpedic frowns and asks why he is pushing that onto him. Their conversation is interrupted as Kamara makes his way inside and introduces his new knight, who will be joining the subjugation team. Sir Eugene and his mercenary group. Bertell was shocked to see that it was the guy from earlier. Plus, he was even leading a mercenary group. He smiles and tells Kamara that they cannot accept someone of unknown origin and unproven skill. Kamara says he can at least vouch for his skills, shocking Bertell. Kamara smirked, saying he heard something from their new little brother just now. He reminds his brother of the bandit gang causing trouble at the edge of the territory and how they have been quite a headache for them too. Apparently, Sir Eugene took care of them on his way here with a short sword. With this level, his skill is more than sufficient. Just then, Galpedic swings his dagger towards Eugene. No warning, no 2 times. Eugene instantly detects danger and dodges the attack, causing the dagger to go flying in another direction. Galpedic sneers in amusement. He apologizes for being rude upon their first meeting. He assesses Eugene from head to toe, pointing out how he has no visible scars on exposed skin or any signs of sunburn either. He comments that he must have been raised delicately and asks to see this young master's skills. Word soon spread that Lord Galpedic had declared a duel. Many people gathered to watch the two men fight. A pretty large crowd gathered as they all wanted to see the skills of the knight, who placed third in the tournament. They had heard he was so strong he could tear monsters apart with his bare hands. And so whoever his opponent was, they almost feel sorry for him. Eugene watches Galpedic swing his sword about in a knightly way. After properly observing it, he mimics it. With that, the duel begins. The bell had just rung, and both of their swords were locked in. The two clashed their swords together with utter vigor and determination to defeat their opponent. Laban was proud to see Sir Eugene and believed that Lord Galpedic was completely helpless against him. But the captain was smarter than that and said he was just testing the waters. He deduces that Lord Galpedic is letting himself be pushed back on purpose. Galpedic smiles as he casually continues to dodge the man's attacks. He observes how this man's swordsmanship is rougher than expected. There are almost no habits, and he cannot tell at all what kind of sword this man usually wields. He is not particularly polished, but he feels like someone who was raised in the wild, and that's when it clicks for him. Eugene is not a knight, but somehow, he might be even more dangerous. Galpedic doesn't even sugarcoat it. He straight up calls Eugene out for his unrefined swordsmanship and the sloppy stance. He says this man has never been professionally trained and is relying entirely on his physical abilities. While swordsmanship isn't everything to a knight, you can tell just by exchanging a few blows. Eugene says he talks too much, but the man suggests that he defeat him. Galpedic finally stops playing nice. The next strike lands clean. Eugene goes flying back like the fight just remembered gravity exists. The bystanders were shocked. Bertell becomes ecstatic, believing that the man is out cold, but Eugene steps out of the rubble even more determined to win. He rushes towards Galpedic with sheer force and crushes his swords once again. Galpedic smiles, admitting that this guy learns fast. In the end, both had let go of their swords and were now locking hands. Galpedic was surprised to see that this man, who was much smaller in size than him, possessed such strength. He could not help but admit that this guy's raw strength is overwhelmingly superior to his. However, in terms of experience, he was the one who had the upper hand. And so, to Eugene's shock, the man uses his skills to drag him to the floor. But before he could be hit, Eugene instantly dodged his attack. He grabs him by his fist and pulls him away. No elegance, no textbook moves, just pure I refuse to die today energy. Galpedic watches him make not even a single precise movement, but rapid absorption and crisis management bond of survival instinct are clear. This only made him more curious. Where on earth did this guy roll in from? And so even before Eugene could punch him, he knew he was at a loss. Next thing anyone knows, Galpedic is the one who goes flying back, hitting the wall. Even the announcer had to prepare himself to declare the winner, Knight Yen Eugene. The audience began to cheer for the incredibly strong knight. They had never heard his name before, but now they will. Mercenaries also cheer like they've known him their whole lives. Laban is already claiming ownership. That's our knight. As for Galpedic, his eyes glowed red as he staggered his way out of the rubble. Eugene thinks he will attack him once again, and so he gets ready. But to his astonishment, Galpedic raises his arm and cheers, suggesting another round of applause for tonight's winner. Bertell watches everyone rejoice and call Eugene's name in unison. Later, Eugene sat at a well-filled dinner table awkwardly. He clearly wasn't accustomed to such a luxurious lifestyle. The butler reveals he has received orders from Master Kamara. Since Eugene needs to eat and rest well to open the dungeon, he will take personal responsibility for ensuring his meals are meticulously prepared. One maid tended to the lighting while the other asked for his wine preference. Not sure about Eugene, but Miran was having the time of its life watching the scene unfold. It couldn't exactly tell the servants that a vampire doesn't need food. As if on a talk show, it wonders aloud if his lordship will get a stomachache eating all of this. Eugene ends up dismissing all of them, saying he will take care of his own meals and will just accept their kind intentions. Pissed, he tells the butler to inform Sir Kamara that he prefers to be alone. I am not surprised, considering he had decades of experience living as a recluse deep in the mountains. You don't just transition into royal dining overnight. Since that day, the people's view of Eugene has changed 180 degrees. Even Kamara was now showing respect to his capable knight. Even Laban, who had disrespected him earlier, was showing him the utmost respect. Then there was Sir Galpedic. He considered Eugene to be his friend and comrade in arms, constantly clinging to his side. He proudly reveals that his face is still throbbing so much that he tossed and turned all night. Eugene couldn't understand if it was an invitation to hit him more, or what. Galpedic cheerfully suggests having another sparring match. Eugene was a little surprised to see that this man didn't seem to care whether he was a knight or not, and those who doubted him have started to drop their suspicions one by one. It is the result he wanted, but having people swarming around him is something he still cannot get used to, even after a few days. Eugene is soon approached by Peled. Everyone was shocked to see him as he asked Eugene if he had been well all this time. The scene shifts to a flashback. Bertell is seen torturing some of the mercenaries for not doing their job properly and not ensuring the illegitimate child died for certain in that village. Things had not gone according to his plan, and he was furious. The others watched in horror as Bertell gouges their leader's eyes out like it's a normal Tuesday. Bertell wonders what he should do, as he cannot openly kill someone who has already slept in the castle. An idea soon strikes his mind. With that method, he is sure that even disposing of the body will be clean. Back in the present, Eugene listens to Peled's story. Apparently, Sir Bertell ordered him to head out to the dungeon that is about to open in a situation like this. Peled meekly reveals he came here to die, and now he is being sent to the dungeon to die. Eugene reminds the boy of the commotion when the mercenaries headed to the village and were attacked by black wolves. He says those third-rate mercenaries who became wolf food were probably sent by one of his brothers. He tries to reason with Peled that his brothers never wanted him to reach the castle alive. But Peled's eyes shine with a glimmer of hope as Eugene reveals that there is a way for him to live. He can become his retainer. Eugene explains that he is 16 and has already finished his coming-of-age ceremony. Therefore, he does not need a guardian's consent and can choose his own path. He can either stay hidden like this and wait for someone to cut his life short, or struggle to the very end. The day the dungeon opened soon arrived. Naturally, since it hasn't been opened yet, no one knows what monsters will appear. Galpedic guesses that judging by the scale, lower ranks would be goblins or kobolds. Mid-rank would be trolls or big spiders, and of course, they cannot protect the high-rank ones. Their goal is to clear a path as far as the area with mid-rank monsters. He was instructing the knights and suggested they retreat immediately if a higher rank shows up. He then orders the knights to scout the area to see if there is a dungeon entrance nearby. Some of the knights who were assigned the portal job were relieved not to end up dying, picking up a few scraps. Bertell, however, interrupts and questions if Peled is here. He looks around, saying he was assigned here. One of the knights points towards the child who was assisting Sir Eugene. Furious, he approaches Peled and orders him to grab his bag and get to position. Because nothing says brotherly love like throwing someone into certain death. But Peled ignores him. This makes Bertell furious, and he begins to raise his hand. However, Eugene stops him midway. He coldly says he heard he is sending some brat who has never held anything sharper than a kitchen knife into the dungeon when it opens. He asks Bertell if he is out of his mind. Bertell swayed his hand away, saying he only wants to raise his younger brother strong and asks Eugene to know his place. But Eugene says that Bertell is the one who doesn't know his place. He reveals that Peled has become his retainer as of yesterday, and everyone here is a witness. It is a bond thicker than blood, and if any of them so much as lay a finger on the boy, he will consider it a challenge against him. He openly faces Bertell's wrath and directly challenges him to loosen up his body a little before entering the dungeon if he wants. Bertell asks if he thinks taking in another family's illegitimate child is easy. But he comes even more furiously as he hears some men talking about how they are being led by capable leaders, Sir Eugene and Sir Galpedic. Just then, Kamara approaches them, saying he would also trust his younger brother to Sir Eugene. He points out to Bertell that their younger brother is 16 and already an adult, so he should choose his own path. This only infuriates Bertell more, but he couldn't say anything now. Eugene knew Peled was the prey. When the weak have already become the target of a predator, surviving is not easy. Even if you hold your breath, it will chase you and tear into your neck. If you cannot grow strong, then gather into a pack. That is the survival method of the weak. To Bertell's fury, Kamara approached Peled and offered to show him around his study and asked if he knew how to read by any chance. Just then, Galpedic reported that there are no traces of rumors nearby, and it seems no monsters escape through the dungeon tunnels. This means they may open the dungeon. As the dungeon begins to open, Galpedic advises the knights to survive on their own. With that, they all began to advance inside the dungeon. Kamara bids them farewell, saying he will see them in 4 days. Peled also stood there for Eugene, advising him to stay safe. The doors closed behind them. There's no turning back now. Inside the dungeons, the knights instantly become busy fighting off the first base monsters. No warm-up whatsoever. Galpedic quickly pulls a knight away from certain death and orders everyone into formation, placing archers in the center while the front line forms a defensive perimeter to prevent the creatures from breaking through. There are hundreds of low-tier green creatures lurking on the dungeon walls, and they swarm in like they have been waiting for this moment their whole lives. Some of the knights could not help but feel gross. One of the knights regrets volunteering for the dungeon subjugation and decides to get out of here, but as he decides to head to the entrance, he bumps into more of those gruesome creatures. Galpedic calls him an idiot and tells him to pull himself together. He reveals that his safest pick is sticking together. He then forces him to raise his sword and get back to his position. Galpedic sighs as he scans the battlefield. He had gathered the mercenaries in a hurry, which was why they were clearly not in good shape. He was skeptical of subjugating this dungeon with such people. He is soon informed that more monsters are pushing in from all sides. Sir Galpedic contemplates rearranging the formation, but in that moment, Eugene steps up, volunteering to take care of the rear side. Galpedic cautions him that going alone is dangerous, but Eugene fastens his pace and ignores him. Soon, Galpedic and the mercenary captain, Partek, notice something appeared from the rear side. Concerned, Galpedic asks Partek to follow him. They, along with Laban, go deeper and deeper into the dungeon, shocking Galpedic. He could not believe Eugene managed to go this far in that brief moment. Galpedic's eyes widen as he spots his comrade. Eugene stares at a glowing flower in his hand. He reveals how he killed all the ones coming from the crossroads and found this in the corner. Galpedic sighs in surprise, but mostly relief. Partek, on the other hand, is left completely stunned. Eugene had no idea what glowgrass even was, yet he managed to wipe out an entire section of the dungeon within moments. Man really went in blind, and still Speed ran the dungeon like it was a side quest. After defeating all the low female monsters, the wounded soldiers were tended to. Eugene is informed by the knights that they have collected the rest of the mana crystals. Eugene takes note of how they have killed so many monsters, but they have gotten very few mana crystals. They were also blue, which is different from what Eugene got from the roamer. Miran stares at the mana crystals, saying they're small compared to higher quality ones. The quality of a crystal is proportionate to the strength and size of the monster after all. Eugene questions if wild roamers usually have bigger crystals. Miran says that a monster in a dungeon becomes a roamer if it leaves the dungeon and goes out to the wilderness, but that does not guarantee an increase in the size of its mana crystal. Roamers like the Lord of the Forest Eugene absorbed are pretty rare and hard to find, and above all, they were even strong enough to be able to usurp the water spirit's own territory. This makes Eugene realize that he was extremely fortunate in obtaining the Lord of the Forest's red mana crystal. Miran says, saying that at this rate, doing favors for the nobles and coming into the dungeons is pointless. It questions whether there are any high-level monsters here. Just then, as if granting its wish, the ground begins to shake. Unlike Eugene, who remains confused, Galpedic knew the familiar drill. He was only disappointed at not getting enough rest. He orders everyone back into formation, but the knights return looking completely drained, as if they have already been fighting for days. This only irritates him further. He informs them that he and Sir Eugene will take the front so they can follow behind. Anyone running away will be punished afterward. Eugene flinches at this. He could not believe the man wanted him to stand at the front when it was his first time in a dungeon. Galpedic turns to him and reveals that the mercenaries are not being helpful at all, so he will have to step it up a bit more. It is because the monsters they're about to face are going to be on a whole different level. He grabs Eugene by the shoulder and tells him to look ahead. The monsters that have long held military power in the dungeon will probably be using the goblins as their soldiers. In other words, they're about to face at least some intermediate level monsters, and if they eliminate them, the high level monsters will be waiting for them in the core of the dungeon, the depths. That day, right after Eugene consumed the red mana crystal of the roamer who was the master of the forest, he was able to gain a very useful ability, and so hearing Galpedic's rambling only makes him more curious. If he consumed another one like that, would he gain a different ability? Everyone else is worried about surviving, and this man is out here thinking about upgrades, priorities. Eugene focuses on the sounds coming from the depths of the dungeons. He estimates that there are at least 50 footsteps, and they are about 100 meters away from them. 3 heavier ones are in the back. Galpedic seemed to be impressed by his deduction and sneers. He hands Eugene a spear, offering that he throw it himself. Without any further hesitation, Eugene follows the command and swings the spear deep into the tunnel. It pierces through the front goblins. Just like that, the knights charged at the enemy. Without looking back, Eugene aims for the biggest goblin. Galpedic did send assistance to Eugene, but he did not care. Teamwork is optional when you apparently function like a one-man army. It was him versus the monster. He leaps forward, striking the creature and blinding it. He He then uses his weapon to pierce through its body and taste its delicious blood. Please don't forget he is a vampire. The soldiers below were stunned by what they witnessed. On that day, they engraved the image of the knight they had long admired into their memory. Noble swordsmanship, upright and just, unyielding nobility. Eugene inflicts another attack on the goblin, sinking his knuckles deep into its thick green skin. He then ruthlessly yanks its head off, beheading it without the need of a weapon. The knights watch in horror as the goblin's neck gushes out pure blood. A fierce demon was defeated by a mere human, a figure who maintains his dignity. All of these were unlike the knights they had known before. Rather, it was a style far beyond their admiration. It was the style of a bloody beast. After wiping out what felt like an entire goblin population's senses, the knights finally sat down in silence. Galpedic assesses the monotonous scene before him. Some of their soldiers had died, while the others were pretty shaken up, trauma bonding in silence. He guesses most of their combat power has lost the ability to push on any further because of this battle. It is not like physical fatigue could have built up already, so this must be mental exhaustion caused by the scene they just witnessed. With a heavy heart, he guesses they cannot advance any more than this. He turns to Eugene and suggests they withdraw around here, considering they have already met the target, he said. But Eugene calmly says he is not tired yet. He says it feels like a waste to turn back now, considering they don't know when the next subjugation will be. He says they are free to return first if they want to go back. Galpedic liked that answer. Of course he did. This man had the survival instincts of a cockroach and the stamina of a final boss. He suggests they keep moving in this case. The knights were shocked to hear that these heroes still had stamina left. Eugene jumps down from the goblin's body and tells Galpedic to take the lead of the subjugation party and head out of the dungeon. From here on, only he and his mercenaries will proceed. Galpedic sighs. He guesses that Eugene must have noticed the soldiers' fatigue and chose to be considerate of them. It seems he's only getting increasingly impressed by Sir Eugene, who possesses a warm heart that cares for soldiers weaker than himself, hidden behind that sharp exterior. He's a man who makes you reconsider what a knight truly is. He watches Eugene, Partek, and Laban make their way deeper into the dungeon. Laban really did not want to go, so he found himself getting swept up in this. But he quickly reminds himself that Sir Eugene is strong enough to take down a huge monster by himself. If something happens, he will handle it one way or another. But he gets cut off from his thoughts as he hears a crunching noise coming from beneath his feet. It was a gruesome, spider-like insect he had crushed beneath his feet. This one here is the chattering of more insects making their way towards them. They were called the cave great spider. It is a spider-type monster that lives in groups that melt and consume their prey with a powerful acidic poison. Laban shrieks like a little kid as the insects crawl their way closer towards him. Partek realizes the gravity of the situation and suggests they fall back, but Eugene had no intention of doing so. He begins to eliminate the spider creatures simultaneously, coldly pointing out that these numbers are nothing to him. And so both mercenaries began to partake in fighting, helping Eugene. Laban got overwhelmed, of course he did, screaming for help like a side character in a horror movie. Eugene comes to his rescue, slaying the monstrous creatures. Laban could not help but be impressed by this monstrous man once again. He suggests they turn back now. He looks to his captain for validation, but is shocked to see him in a disheveled state, as if his soul had left his body. Partek's mouth was gaping open, and his eyes widened as he stared at the monstrosity of the creature above him. He had never expected in his whole life to run into this here. Among roamers, even within the same species, there are different ranks, but you almost never encounter the higher ranks, so they are not even considered when forming the subjugation party. He could tell by the sheer size of the creature itself that it was the higher rank variant of the cave-grade spider, the Lord. The gigantic creature screeches as it notices its prey. Partek suggests to Eugene that they retreat, as they will not be of any help against a higher-ranked spider. At the very least, they should come back with Sir Galpedic. But to their surprise, Eugene coldly calls their names and orders them to withdraw, as this one is his prey. Partek instinctively obliges. He couldn't understand what he was feeling in the moment, the strange sensation like he had lost control of his own body. It is as if every nerve in him is screaming to get away from her. He and Laban instantly make a rush for it. Miran laughs as it watches the scene unfold, commenting that those brats look like their instincts have surrendered to the difference in strength between them and Eugene. Eugene questions the spirit of that Lord thing is on par with the master of the forest. Meanwhile, the spider crawls around angrily, ready to attack. Miran smiles and says no. At that level, it is probably even stronger than the master of the forest. In that case, Eugene was happy to know that the mana crystal should be even bigger. And so he readily prepares his weapon to fight off this roamer. After all, the harder it is to open a tray on your chest, the greater the excitement for what is inside. The scene shifts to a spider struggling to spin a web, but his efforts prove useless as a single swing makes him legless, severing his tiny body. It was Eugene's doing. Eugene remembers the second ability he gained by eating the mana crystal of that dungeon's lord. It was called camouflage. By protecting his skin with the first ability he obtained, skin reinforcement, and using camouflage to reproduce human skin, he is now finally able to stand under the sunlight. With this, the troublesome issue of having to avoid sunlight has been reduced. He gets cut off from his thoughts as the woman sitting beside him questions why he is not wearing a mask now. They express that keeping his looks hidden was so cruel of him. All the women were now crushing over him, giggling, laughing, flirting even. Apparently, news spread that he soloed a spider lord, and now everyone wanted a piece of that mysterious handsome knight energy. Miran was having the time of his life, as usual. He teases Eugene for getting sucked dry. As if Eugene was not going through hell, Miran also begins to imitate the women. As one of the women points out, if he has a lineage of an elf, considering he is so handsome, this catches Galpedic's attention. His booming voice fills the area as something strikes his mind. He points out Eugene's sharp eyes even in a pitch-black dungeon, and his ears keen like a wild dog's. He says he figured Eugene could not be an ordinary human, but he did not expect elven blood running through his veins. He curiously questions Eugene about how he managed to hide himself all this time. Eugene continues to aura farm with his pretty face, stating that he never really tried to hide himself on purpose. Eugene realizes he can now use the excuse that there is an elf among his ancestors if he is ever suspected. What he gained from eating that mana crystal this time was not simply an ability. The moment the mark disappeared, memories he had never seen before played across his mind. He saw himself as he is now, lying in an unknown place. Soft hands were holding him, and in that unfamiliar space where a bell was ringing out, everyone had their eyes on him. Eugene was now consistently wondering who the woman in those memories was. And are those memories even his? As someone who has no recollection of his past, the only thing Eugene remembers is, time's up. Eugene gets knocked back into reality as Laban calls him for help. He was apparently getting choked to death by Galpedic. At this point, Laban's full-time job is just surviving consequences. Galpedic was teasing him for running away and only being a dead weight for Eugene in the dungeon. Anyways, where were we? The only thing Eugene remembers is his name. But because of what happened this time, he has started to have a certain hunch. If he erases these marks one by one, just like now, he might be able to find out more about himself. Not some falsehood like being a knight or having elven blood, but who he truly was. The scene shifts to everyone gathered at the deathbed of Lord Tiwin. He had heard of their successful subjugation of the dungeon opening. Galpedic respectfully greets the Lord, introducing himself as Crema, the third son of Galpedic. Eugene carefully observes his mannerism and introduces himself in the same way. Lord Tiwin then gave him a certificate to guarantee his status. Eugene expresses his gratitude but gets interrupted as the Lord begins to cough violently. The Lord talks to his eldest son Kamara about his younger brother's ambition, saying they weigh heavily on his mind, and he cannot close his eyes in peace. Kamara tells him not to worry about Bertell. He promises to guide this domain that he has built up over a lifetime, safely and properly. But the Lord tells his beloved first son that a domain is nothing but dust and earth. He tells him to always remember that a lord must look after his people, not his land, and lead them. With that, he becomes motionless. Eugene watches how a lot of people grieved over the Lord's death. However, even in front of the same person's passing, there are some who do not share the same sentiment. The scene shifts to Kamara and the others bidding farewell to Sir Galpedic. He apologizes for having to leave amid the Lord's funeral. He then questions Eugene if he is really going to stay here. Eugene reveals he intends to go into the dungeon one more time. It would be a waste to leave it after they went through the trouble of opening it. Galpedic thinks of it as a shame, saying if the Count of Evergrow had heard of him, he would have liked him very much. He then reaches out his hand, saying it was an honor to cross swords with a strong knight like Eugene. He hopes that the next time they meet, they will not meet as enemies. With that, they shake hands, and Galpedic leaves. Eugene then tells Partek to prepare for departure. Partek explains to a curious Padil that, as a rule, knights ride horses, so they are going to the trading company to both get a horse for Sir Eugene and sell the monster's byproducts. Padil passionately says that as Sir Eugene's retainer, he will also do his utmost to assist him. However, Eugene coldly says he will not need his assistance for the time being, confusing him. To his utter disappointment, he was tasked with other things. Let's just say they were less exciting in nature. The kingdom of Kaler's greatest commerce city was Marin. Laban proudly stood in front of the dungeon byproducts that Eugene had accumulated. It was to brag in front of the other individuals at the port. Everyone had obviously heard about the dungeon's open subjugation done in the Tiwin territory, and they couldn't help but be stunned. They all were eager to see the upcoming knight who supposedly ripped off a monster's head while it was still alive. Peled was busy loading and unloading the docks as he stared at a house in the distance. He wonders what is taking so long for Sir Eugene. On the other hand, Eugene was having some serious conversation with Billmore of the Palin Trading Company. He volunteers to take responsibility for handling his byproducts personally. Eugene was half doubting when Partek said he knew a good trading company, but he did not believe that the mercenary would introduce him to such a large-scale company. He knows this will be extremely useful for someone like him who is ignorant of human social networks. The man's rambling is interrupted as another man barges inside. He coldly questions which of them is Sir Eugene. Partek instantly becomes cautious and warns Sir Eugene that this could get a bit awkward. It is because the person who just walked in is a secretary working directly under the deputy manager of this trading company, Sir Grail. In short, that means he is someone with more power than Bill Moore, the man they are trying to deal with, and so he has likely come to buy his byproducts at a lower price. He advises Eugene to proceed very carefully right now if he wants a stable trade partner. Sir Grail orders Bill Moore to step aside and not pointlessly challenge someone he cannot possibly beat. He had heard the rumors of a knight ripping off a monster's head with his bare hands, but he believes it to be nothing more than an unverified rumor spread to inflate the value of his goods. A transparent little newbie tactic. He tells the newbie that the trading company's deputy manager would like to sign a contract with him personally, and so he suggests Eugene get done with his shabby place and come with him. He thinks of Eugene as a brat of a knight who only supposes brute strength. He has decided to haul him off and strip him down to the bone, but chills run down his spine as he locks eyes with this man. For some reason, he feels intense pressure and instantly apologizes for being rude. He then introduces himself politely. His voice instantly turns meek as he reveals to the knight that he will have a good chance to sell his bad products under better terms. He begins to lose his composure as the man looks at him with widened eyes as if he will lunge at him like a beast right then and there. He continues to apologize for being discourteous and rushes out of the room, saying he will come to see him another day. Eugene becomes confused and asks the mercenary what he did. Bill Moore, on the other hand, says he is moved to tears as he just rejected a contract with the deputy manager on his account, and so he promises to give him full and unwavering support from now on. On the other hand, Mr. Grail reports back to the deputy manager, revealing that Eugene rejected their offer. The deputy manager becomes curious, saying that knights often make things difficult for the merchants, forsaking their honor or pride. In that case, they have to make things difficult for them in their own way. For merchants like them, whose power lies in money and goods, it is not particularly hard. That is, especially when the opponent is a poor knight who does not even have a proper horse. She then tells Mr. Grail to go and deliver a gift to Sir Eugene, something that is far too good for a penniless knight to refuse. On the other hand, Eugene instructs Petal to stay here and keep selling the byproducts he brings to Billmore. Petal was not happy with this decision, questioning why he has to stay behind this time too. He questions if it is because his skills are still too lacking to follow him. He promises to start training with his sword this instant if that is the case. Eugene reminds him of the retainer's role. Peled hesitatingly says it is to support the knights they serve in both battle and daily life. Eugene says he has to support his daily life as his retainer, sell the byproducts he brings back from battle, and accumulate money. Peled was not happy at all with this decision, but he silently agreed to obey. He knows if it were not for Sir Eugene, he would have died a long time ago. Throwing a tantrum over something like this could just be disgraceful. But his eyes widened in hope as Eugene revealed that he would consider teaching him the sword once they had saved some funds. Eugene smiles warmly, saying that someday he will have to support his battles as the retainer too. Peled grinned in satisfaction, promising to follow his orders. Eugene and Partek continue roaming through the marketplace, buying minimum essentials. Eugene comes to note how money disappears fast. Even the water spirit was crying, saying their purse is so thin that even their heart feels hollow now. But Eugene's attention gets directed as he stares at a plate of armor. Partek reveals that it is a true dream for every knight. It's not just that armor is expensive. Even fairly wealthy knights often pass this kind of armor down through generations. That is how valuable it is. Both get interrupted as Laban rushes towards them, revealing that a huge roamer horde has appeared just outside Marin. He pants out of breath, revealing that rumors from the forest east of the city are trying to push in, and the local Marin guilds are barely holding them back right now. Partek suggests Eugene that they should participate in this subjugation, but Eugene questions why he should. Laban interjects and reveals that unlike dungeons that have an owner, there are no commission fees for roamer hunts. Plus, this place is Marin, the merchant city overflowing with capital. It is the perfect location to sell monster byproducts and loot at soaring prices with no transport costs. In other words, it means a huge amount of money. Before you begin judging him, Eugene is not your typical hero. He simply cares a lot when it comes to money. And so Eugene instantly switched modes. Choice. Morals? Optional. Profit? Mandatory. But before they can leave, Sir Grail hurries towards them, out of breath. He had a horse with him. He confidently reveals that the deputy manager sent a war horse as a gift, and he is here to deliver it. Glossy black mane as smooth as silk, muscles tightly woven as if God had sculpted them. A thoroughbred among thoroughbreds with its own pedigree. Eugene's demeanor darkens as he questions if the deputy manager is giving him this. Mr. Grail is instantly intimidated as he sees the familiar look in this man's eyes. He tries to reason that it is a small token of appreciation. To his surprise, Eugene instantly gets on the horse and tells the man to inform the deputy manager he is grateful. With that, he rushes towards the outer walls of the city to rake in some money. Mr. Grail watches as the other two mercenaries run after him while contemplating leaving this stressful job. On the outskirts of this city in the eastern outer forest, a few monsters feast on a corpse, but they become alert as they hear some noises nearby. But before they could react, Eugene beheads them in a single strike. Miran comments that most of the guild members who are supposedly holding the lineup ahead might already be dead. It is because they can already see the monsters from here. Eugene thinks of it as good news, saying he does not like sharing loot. Absolutely unhinged behavior. Eugene comes to a halt as he gets closer to the battle scene. The local guilds were clearly being overpowered by monstrous creatures. Eugene watches as one of the knights gets surrounded by the trolls, seconds away from becoming a tragic backstory. Eugene instantly makes a run for it, slaying each troll in seconds. The knight shows Eugene gratitude, because obviously he just saved his life. He asks for Eugene's name, but the man says it does not matter. The knight agrees and promises to ask for his name once more when they return from this hell on earth. In the end, they manage to return to the city. Back in the city, the same knight wasted zero time turning into a full-time storyteller, except it was a heavily edited version, borderline fiction. He begins to tell tales of a mysterious knight, due to which they were able to secure victory and protect the city. He reveals the knight's name, Yan Eugene. Murmurs fell from the crowd instantly. They would be foolish to not recognize the knight's name, erupted in cheer declaring him as their hero. Meanwhile, Louis Palin, the current mayor of the trading company, stares at the people chanting. He remarks that the more Eugene's fame grows, the harder it becomes to control him. He asks his grandchild Pachella if she is certain they should leave him be. Pachella assures him that everything will be under control. Rather, she is hoping Yan Eugene becomes even more reputable. After all, the higher he soars, the worse the fear of the fall. Sis really said let him cook, but she already preheated the oven for his downfall. She asks if her grandfather knows about the squire Eugene has with him. She reveals that from what she has investigated, that child is a hidden illegitimate child of the Tiwin family. Louis scoffs. They conclude that Sir Eugene is trying to secure a huge fund through business and sponsor the illegitimate child of the Tiwin family. Pachella adds that if they can secure them, they might be able to build a relationship with the future head of the Tiwin family. Louis was impressed by his granddaughter's meticulous planning. He is aware of her intentions to buy off a knight who is sponsoring the illegitimate child. In that case, he decides to send Eugene a gift as well, putting Pachella in as a referral. Pachella understands those who are thirsty will seek the water's edge to drink. As a merchant, there is only one thing she must do: dig a well before the right person gets thirsty. She plans to wait until the knight restlessly drinks the water she digs out without resistance or doubt. That is exactly what happens. Yan Eugene comes on his own accord to meet her. Upon exchanging greetings, Eugene reveals he came here to give his thanks. The deputy manager stares at the beautiful individual. Who could tell by one look that he is also a terrifying knight, capable of decapitating a troll with his bare hands? It is no surprise that he is different from the knights she has met so far. She notices how he is wearing the armor that their mayor gave him, and she compliments him. She reveals it is a commission from the best workshop in the city, made from a special steel forged by mixing iron with ogre bones. This gives it hardness even a dragon's fangs cannot easily pierce. Eugene ponders and says he can count on its sturdiness in the next dungeon subjugation. He expresses that he's grateful to her for providing them with great lodging and food. He says his mercenaries are in good condition now, and he anticipates them to show impressive results. He does not know what he did to receive this, but he expresses his gratitude for her goodwill. She is about to suggest her proposal, but Eugene instantly stands up and says he will take his leave. The deputy manager was shocked. That was not part of the script. Eugene says he will stop by the Tiwin dungeon once more, but he then adds that his contract is only limited to the byproducts from the dungeon this time. So it might just be farewell, as he is going to focus on collecting mana crystals this time. A clear Uno reverse. She set the trap, he said. Nice setup, and walked out anyway. But Pachella was not going to be played. Not even close. She points out how she has given him the utmost luxuries, yet he pretends to remain ignorant. She smirks, questioning if he didn't learn that everything in this world comes with a cost when he was a squire. Or does he not care if the people of this city who are praising him find out that he's a shameless knight who knows no one there? This instantly grabs Eugene's attention. Color drained from his face. And, honestly, as a vampire, it was already a low bar. The deputy manager questions if he is just going to walk away after taking everything from her. Eugene smiles, calling out the ridiculous situation. He points out how she ordered him around on their first meeting, then she dumped unwanted gifts on him as she pleased, and now she demands payment for those gifts. His red eyes glowed darker as he icily questioned if a mere merchant was trying to threaten him. The atmosphere of the room became intense, clearly in favor of the night. Eugene approaches Pachella closer and clarifies that he has already made a contract with Palin Trading Company through Bill Moore. As long as she quietly keeps buying his goods, he could not care less about what the people of this city say about him. But she's right for saying that everything has a prize. He challenges her to go ahead and run her mouth all she likes. She will then find out for herself what that prize really means. Pachella stood frozen in her tracks as she had clearly not anticipated such a situation where she was powerless. Eugene continues his main character's speech, saying that from where he stands, it only looks like Palin is colluding with the city to persecute the knight who saved it. If this is how things go, when the next crisis comes, there will not be a single knight willing to step forward for Marin. With that, he turns to leave like he just dropped the hardest mic in history. Partek tells the deputy manager that it is truly unfortunate. If her approach had been different, they could certainly have built a good relationship. Before Eugene could leave, Pachella instantly bows in apology, shocking her subordinates. She admits her discourtesy and says she let her desire to gain the upper hand in the relationship cloud her judgment. To atone for her rudeness, she would like to start over this relationship from the beginning. She says she will keep his existing contract with Bill Moore, but would like to add some clauses to the agreement promising there will be nothing to worry about. Pachella had become even more cautious. She has seen more than enough knights wag their tails the moment you dangle expensive patronage in front of them. Most so-called knights are just fools chasing wealth and fame anyway. But it seems she has been misguided to believe that Eugene is the same. In fact, he is too dangerous to toy with. Maybe that is why her merchant's instincts are screaming that she must not let him go. Eugene agrees to hear her out, but suggests she make a tempting offer. Pachella smiles and thanks him. Later, Miran rejoices at Eugene's new fit check. He says that armor really is what makes a knight look the part together with a horse. Partek congratulates Eugene for securing quite a favorable contract. He stares at the clauses, saying the trading company's business skill is so large and far too reaching that it cannot be ignored. Palin has hundreds of branches all across the Roman Empire, with Marin as their main base. They primarily trade vigorously with noble houses that own local magic domains, like House Tiwin. Right now, for such a company to offer unlimited mediation for dungeons or labyrinths connected to each branch is a really generous proposal. At this level, it may be far better than receiving an appointment from a noble house. He congratulates Eugene for making a brilliant move. Eugene shrugs it off, saying he only agreed because he was annoyed. Man really negotiated a top-tier deal out of pure spite. Just then, a voice approaches them, questioning if being wrapped in shiny armor automatically makes someone a knight. He judges Eugene's pretty face, questioning if he can even hold his sword properly. Imagine beefing with someone because they are prettier and stronger. It couldn't be Eugene for sure. Miran stares at the rotten potato-faced guy in disgust. Kamara soon approaches and greets Eugene, saying he is right on time. He was now the new lord of Tiwin territory. Eugene asks about the current situation, and Kamara reveals that his younger brother went and hired new mercenaries again instead of having his spirit broken. This time, something feels off to him. Kamara reminds him of the mercenary band his younger brother hired to bring Pelid here last time. From what he recalls, they were a nasty bunch, and for some reason the mercenaries he has brought this time give off a similar sort of feeling. And so he offers Eugene to serve as commander of this dungeon subjugation party. But he gets interrupted by the previous rotten potato-faced guy who mocks that, if that fellow dies in the dungeon, he can become the commander then. Kamara was shocked by his rudeness. The potato-faced guy continues speaking, saying that it's not like they are going on a picnic, and it's just not something he wants to say either. In a dungeon, human life becomes as cheap as it flies. They must prepare for the worst. He smiles disgustingly at Eugene, saying that he will be counting on him. To the potato guy's surprise, Eugene agrees, saying if he dies, they will let Baldy over there play commander in his place. Baldy was at least a better nickname than the rotten potato-face guy. He should be grateful for it. Eugene knew this was one of Bertell's little tricks. He is planning to use the mercenaries to get rid of Biogene inside the dungeon, but Eugene finds it fun to watch things go the other way around. Miran agrees and laughs. The scene fast-forwards to Eugene's slicing of goblins as if they were vegetables. He continues handling all of them solo. Baldy watches him in shock. It seems this guy's reputation wasn't just empty bragging. Eugene stands at the very front, taking on 100 men's worth of work, stuck all by himself. The mercenaries he brought are almost just standing around by comparison. He hates to admit, but this knight has an overwhelming presence, like having a massive shield set up right in front of them all. This only means he has more work to do. He decides to watch carefully for a good opening and get a chance to get his poison-coated sword to at least graze that infuriating phase. After defeating the low-tier monsters, Eugene announces that up ahead is the area where only mid-rank monsters appear. He cautions them that their lives will be at stake and only those who wish it should follow him. Baldy and the other mercenaries grinned in greed. Taking it as a good opportunity, they decide to follow him. Laban also volunteers to go but is stopped by his captain, suggesting they wait here and stay. Laban becomes confused, to which the captain reveals that Sir Eugene seems to have a different idea in mind. As Eugene makes his way deeper into the dungeon, he remembers he came here together with Sir Galpedic last time. It really seems a lot less entertaining without him, as much as he hates to admit it. He only watched the man briefly, but he is an excellent leader for sure. He raised fallen morals at just the right moments, and he personally took the most dangerous positions at the very front as he advanced. He knows with him by his side, he might have been able to clear this dungeon safely, even with this rubble of a party. His curiosity only increases as he wonders how that man would handle this situation. Eugene takes note of how these mercenaries have dropped their half-hearted art and were ready to pounce on him at any moment. Eugene smirks, saying he will oblige them if they are that eager to die. With that, Miran activates its water powers, taking them all aback. Without warning, it unleashes it on the enemies. With its water, it was able to put out the fire, causing darkness. The mercenaries panicked as they couldn't see anything up front. Baldy tries to calm them down and orders them to relight their torches, but before they could do so, they were being slaughtered like cows. The darkness, which is usually silent, was now filled with screams of mercenaries as they died one by one. Baldy anxiously begins to light up a fire with stones. With no light, it is turned into a situation that makes it easier for Eugene to rampage alone. He stops his act as he senses deafening quiet. Shivers run down his spine, and he freezes in his tracks as Eugene approaches him from behind, questioning if he needs fire. He volunteers to help if the guy is having trouble breathing. Eugene instantly lights a fire, and the man could clearly see the dead monster ahead. Eugene questions if he can now see who was hunting and who was being hunted. Baldy knew he was doomed and cursed the vampire before giving up. The scene shifts to Rose Castle. Kamara hurriedly approaches Eugene in a state of shock. Bertell also runs close. Kamara asks the man if the news is true. Eugene drags Baldy forward, saying that they can hear it directly from the person involved. Bertell was shocked to see his tortured state. He seemed to be traumatized, repeatedly saying that he tried to kill Eugene on Bertell's orders. Bertell immediately denies everything, trying to gaslight his way out of it. Kamara instantly lashes out at his younger brother, questioning how far he is planning to go. Bertell Blacks nails him emotionally, questioning if he's really going to believe the words of someone who has clearly lost his mind. Baldy seems to be in a disheveled state, repeating incoherent words, saying that he deserves to die for daring to raise his hand against his lord. And so, without warning, the man jumps out of the window to his death. Man really said, "I plead guilty," and speedran his own death scene. Bertell scoffed, saying that the mercenary clearly went mad after seeing a man getting torn apart like paper by a monster. But Kamara says what he finds stranger is that his brother is relieved someone died. Yes, brother, because dead witnesses don't talk. Bertell instantly shifts the topic and accuses Eugene of having no pride as a knight and daring to slander him with paranoid delusions. Eugene darkly questions the man if he can swear on his honor as a knight if he is truly innocent. Bertell hesitates and says he can. Eugene says he hereby demands a trial by combat against him, staking both his knightly honor and his life upon the truth. Bertell was shot and gritted his teeth in frustration. The word about what had happened soon spread. Kamara stood as judge between the two. Bertell aggressively locks swords with Eugene. While fighting the cruel man, Eugene is reminded of his past life. Bertell was the one who informed Sir Jung of his whereabouts. He could not believe he was chased by a mere wretch like this for over a decade. Bertell was taken aback by his strange words. Eugene takes it as an opportunity to strike. He overpowers the wretched man, causing his sword to go flying away. With murderous intent, Eugene glares at the man, ordering him to pick his sword up. Bertell's swordsmanship was by no means poor, but this time, even someone ignorant of the sword could see it. They could see that Eugene is overwhelmingly stronger than Bertell. His weakness ends up causing him to lose his arm. Kamara was shocked and instantly intervened. He says he cannot simply stand by and watch his brother die. He argues that Bertell is no longer capable of fighting and thus cannot prove his claim through the duel. Therefore, the victor is Eugene. But Bertell protests that he can still fight. Kamara tries to shut him up, saying the match is already decided. And as the knight, Bertell should acknowledge his crimes and repent for them in prison. But Bertell had no intention of starting his redemption arc. Instead, he picks up his weapon once again and lunges at Eugene in a state of panic and madness. He clearly couldn't think straight as he pounced towards towards his enemy, saying if it weren't for him, he would never have had to suffer this humiliation. Those were clearly his last words. The next few moments of his life were surrounded with confusion. He could not feel his body move. Rather, he saw his armor fall onto the ground in the distance, while his brother watched him in terror. Eugene had cleanly removed his head from his body. He tells Bertell that he should have grasped the last chance his brother gave him. Everyone watched in silence, including Kamara. Eugene leaves the grounds while Kamara calls out to his foolish younger brother. The scene shifts to the water spirit questioning Eugene if it isn't a pity. Upon asking, the water spirit says that Baldy was the first familiar he ever made, yet he ended up using him only to force a confession before tossing him aside cleanly. But did Eugene clarify that the guy had such a weak mind, he could not even properly endure becoming familiar? If he had left him as he was, it would have been easy for others to notice he had become a vampire. Using him as expendable bait to force a trial by duel was the most appropriate use for him. Eugene really said, if you can't handle being undead, that's a you problem. Besides, he couldn't let someone live after he bared his fangs at him. Miran knew he was right, but protests that a vampire should command countless slaves. It is because for vampires, leaves are the very symbol of power. But Eugene didn't care. He believed if he turned weaklings into familiars, cleaning up after them would cause more trouble than they were worth. He is cut off from his thoughts as he hears chaos from inside the room. He becomes immediately entrusts as he hears Bill Moore and Pachella mentioning Sir Galpedic's name. Bill Moore notices him and instantly congratulates him for the dungeon subjugation. However, Eugene was more interested in what happened to Sir Galpedic. Pachella reveals that 2 weeks ago the knight took part in the Labyrinth subjugation in Count Evergrow's domain, but they were told that Galpedic went alone inside the Labyrinth and is now missing. They thoroughly searched the entire mid-rank monster area but didn't find a single personal belonging of his, so it is likely he has been unable to return from the high-rank monster area. Eugene remains astonished to hear this and immediately sets off to save his comrade. As soon as Eugene reaches the Evergrow mansion, he is greeted by the eldest son of the house, Jevon Evergrow. They settled down in his office as Jevon revealed that Sir Galpedic's ambitions get the better of him. They were planning to grant him an appointment if he had succeeded in this raid, but they didn't expect him to enter the upper levels on his own initiative. Unfortunately, the upper levels he entered are an area their house Evergrow has been unable to touch for over 100 years. That place is where the so-called master of the labyrinth resides. More than simply living there, it is a being that rules over the entire labyrinth. Evergrow's territorial knight, Sir Lugates, comments that the knight was blinded by the prospect of achievements and pressed forward too recklessly, causing trouble for many. Jevon reveals that he was the one who led the subjugation party together with Sir Galpedic at that time. The knight arrogantly says he has heard Eugene defeated Sir Galpedic in a duel. Amused, he reveals that they share this in common. He is the Evergrow tournament champion. In other words, he defeated Galpedic in the tournament. But Eugene did not care for it, questioning if it is important right now. Jevon says it is only in the sense that it shows that Sir Galpedic is also too valuable for a talent for them to lose. He then apologizes to Eugene, confusing him. Jevon points out that he and the Sir were bound by a very deep friendship. Eugene internally curses the guy, but says that it can be said. Jevon promises to give him full support, considering he is a friend who ran all the way here for his sake. He then reveals to Eugene that for the past 100 years, their house has tried several times to subjugate the upper levels, but every attempt has ended with the entire party going missing. Because of that, once someone has been missing for over a month, they end the search and officially declare them dead. Jevon dejectedly reveals that Sir Galpedic has now been missing for 3 weeks. If they cannot find him within the remaining week, there will be no hope. Eugene remains astonished and instantly decides to depart. Jevon was taken aback to see his urgency but warns him that a labyrinth isn't somewhere you stroll into like a city marketplace. He reveals that within 3 days he will have a subjugation party prepared together with Sir Lugates. Until then, he suggests Eugene take some time to rest and recover from his journey. Jevon further reveals that they recently hired a mage, and they will assign him to Eugene as additional support. Later at the marketplace, the water spirit was furious about the Evergrow's attitude. Eugene knew the math isn't mathing and the story isn't storying. Before they parted, Galpedic told him that he is going to have the credit for the dungeon opening raid recognized and receive an appointment from the Count of Evergrow. He had asked Eugene to come with him and make an impression too. His appointment to the Evergrow territory should already have been decided, yet he was apparently put to another test: labyrinth subjugation. Eugene could not understand why they changed their minds like that. More than anything, from what he has seen of Galpedic, he is not the type to act on certain impulses for a moment of greed. Even if he does go to the labyrinth, he would form up a team with competent people and proceed with safety in mind. Eugene gets distracted from his thoughts as a man points out something, stating that the Messiah will come. He declares that on the day when a red shadow is cast upon the moon, there is a prophecy that the goddess of victory will grow wrathful and descend to wipe out this land, including everyone. Everyone instantly rushes towards the show. The man continues continues speaking, saying the calamity has already begun. Near the labyrinth, repeated tremors in the earth have caused wild beasts in the mountain to die in droves, and not long ago, a highly skilled knight disappeared in the labyrinth as well. Miran and Eugene could instantly tell he was talking about Sir Galpedic. The man adds on, advising people to sprinkle the fresh blood of a calf before the gate and with the remaining meat offer a ritual feast. If they do so, the Messiah will descend and save this land steeped in crimson. While some began to panic and fear their lives, others wondered if this was some kind of cute. Eugene could tell this is not the atmosphere of a normal town. A man handed out pamphlets, declaring that it is not too late to believe. Eugene wonders if wild beasts dying near the labyrinth from earthquakes could be part of the collapsed labyrinth. Roamers slipping out through the gaps. Something did not add up. He instantly begins to head for the labyrinth. He says 3 days is too long and they will go ahead on their own and scout for him. However, he freezes in his tracks as a voice says that it never expected to see a vampire here. Bro's secret identity lasted less than 20 chapters. That's embarrassing. Flabbergasted, Eugene instantly turns around to face the identity. The woman was wearing a hood, so it was difficult to recognize her. She says that from what she heard, thanks to the Holy Knight's hunts on this continent, vampires were almost completely wiped out. Yet here he is, walking around in broad daylight with such craziness. Without another moment of hesitation, Eugene instantly grabs the person by her collar and pulls her aside. Man doesn't do conversations, he does interrogations. He orders her to state her identity and questions how she recognized him so quickly. He threatens to crush her neck if she doesn't answer. The woman promises to talk if he lets go of her. She then reveals herself to be a blood shadow. Miran tilts his head and ponders as that name sounds familiar from somewhere. It reveals to Eugene that the woman is a mage and that he should not kill her. Miran continues to lore drop, revealing that she is from the Blood Shadow School, which is a school of mages that has served vampires for generations. Eugene tightens his grip onto the woman in shock, causing her to faint. Later, the woman complains that he starts things off by attacking without a word like that. Eugene apologizes. The woman then formally introduces herself as Sirinor of the Blood Shadow School, which serves vampires as retainers. Because of their school's affinity, they can immediately sense a vampire's presence. She says it is an honor to meet a member of the dark race in person. She reveals that young Master Jevin asked her to look for him. Eugene realizes that she is the maid the young master mentioned earlier. The woman says from what she heard from the young master, Eugene and Sir Galpedic shared a very deep friendship. Eugene becomes dumbfounded as he hears this. He makes a mental note to sew the man's mouth shut when he finds him. She reveals that, also, took part in the subjugation party at the time of his disappearance. Eugene and Miran were astonished to hear this, and we question the details of what happened back then. Sirinor's expression turns dark. She says at the time she needed monster byproducts, so she personally applied for the labyrinth subjugation that the Count of Evergrow had announced. The Evergrow labyrinth is notorious for its difficulty, but because it was discovered 100 years ago, every area except for the upper levels has already been perfectly cleared. So everyone was moving forward with a fair sense of ease, but that doesn't mean there were no casualties. While they were advancing deep inside, suddenly with a tremendous roar, the entire labyrinth began to shake. In the end, the ground she was standing on collapsed, but Sir Galpedic, who had been guarding the rear, saved her and fell into the depths below in her place. Thanks to him, she barely managed to escape and come to her senses. Everyone except for her was convinced that the earthquake happened because Sir Galpedic opened the door to the upper levels. She says she survived thanks to him, so she felt she at least had to tell Eugene, his close friend, what really happened. That is why she came looking for him, but she never imagined him to be a vampire. Though Eugene had expected this. Clearly, Jevin's story doesn't match hers. He wonders if Jevin lied to him or if someone twisted the story in the middle. Sirinor further reveals she saw something else back then. Down there, in the depths where Sir Galpedic fell, she saw an enormous eye drawn on the ground. She reminds him of the flyers that strange cultists handed out in the plaza earlier. There was an image on those flyers that looked exactly like that. The cultist had chanted weird slogans about how the Messiah will descend. They urged the people to welcome him with all their heart, including blood and flesh, as it is he who will lead them to salvation. He will soon awaken. 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye, and Evergrow mercenaries, along with Eugene, were preparing for the subjugation of the Evergrow labyrinth. The territorial knight of Evergrow, Sir Lugates, teasingly questions Eugene if he's excited at the thought of meeting his close friend again. He says he would prefer it if there is no need to transport a corpse. He then laughs as he sees Eugene's evident irritation. To be honest, Eugene wanted to enter the labyrinth long ago, but now that he knows Galpedic's disappearance wasn't an accident, he needs needs to watch this territorial knight's movements from up close. He is sure another 3 days won't kill Galpedic, considering he endured 3 weeks. That is what he thinks, at least. Soon, some Templars from a monastery under House Evergrow approached Eugene and introduced themselves, saying it is truly an honor to fight alongside such a devoted knight as him. They reveal how they're deeply moved by how he risked himself for his friend. He then swears in the name of God, suggesting they fight together. Miran burst into laughter at the obscurity of the situation. These men were praising God in front of a vampire. Truly ironic. Sir Galpedic reveals that normally Templars only follow God's orders. It is rare for them to take an interest in a knight. He teases him to change his class to Holy Knight later if he wants. Only Miran and Sirinor knew the reality. A vampire Holy Knight? It would clearly be a glitch in the system. Before entering the Labyrinth, Eugene asks Partek to step aside with him for a moment. Later, they all made their way inside the Labyrinth. Eugene observes the place carefully. Unlike a dungeon, this is an artificial space arranged in a way so that, at the bare minimum, survival is possible. However, considering monsters live here, he needs to be cautious. If the worst comes to pass, hiding in a labyrinth like this and living on might be possible. But he is distracted from his thoughts as the annoying Sir Galpedic speaks up, saying this certainly is a fitting place for evil things to lurk and hide. He points out Eugene's exceptional skills, but Eugene ignores him, questioning how much farther until the spot where Sir Galpedic disappeared. But Galpedic suggests he be patient. He reminds the guy that House Evergrow has fully grasped the traps of this labyrinth. But Eugene points out that there are still casualties every time. Galpedic laughs, telling him to think of them as offerings, to hope they will make it through this labyrinth alive. This only angers Eugene even more. Just then, the ground beneath them begins to shake. Galpedic cautions everyone to prepare themselves as the layout of the labyrinth is starting to change. He then points Eugene to the section where the walls constantly shift their structure and where the shortcut to the upper levels lies. Eugene questions where exactly this shortcut is supposed to be. Galpedic smirks as he disappears behind the wall, revealing that it is right where Eugene is standing. Eugene and Sirinor were now stuck. Eugene has now come to realize that it wasn't a naturally occurring earthquake after all. Ah yes, the classic trust me bro guide leading you straight into death. Galpedic was framed and caught in a trap. This scumbag had already seen through, but he couldn't understand his goal. Sirinor soon spots something and point to it. Eugene's eyes widened in utter shock and fury as he saw his comrade tied to a cross, barely conscious and injured. Eugene wastes no time to instantly jump towards him. Upon assessing, he was relieved to know he was still alive. If they get him out and treat him immediately, he will survive. But Miran informs Eugene that something is off here. He has been feeling it for a while, but deep down below, something feels out of place. Suddenly, a gust of wind surrounds them. It brings with it a huge creature with glowy eyes radiating a purple aura. Because saving your friend wasn't hard enough already. Sirinor instantly recognize it as a minotaur and questions how it is here. Eugene orders her to protect Sir Galpedic while he rushes towards the beast, ready to fight. He makes short leaps towards the creature's head, ready to swing his sword. However, he is instantly pushed back as the creature opens its mouth, radiating powerful energy. He is hurled into the air and clings to a wall, wondering about the Minotaur's next move. The Minotaur drew forth its massive weapon, which seemed to be fueled with odd purple streaks of energy. The giant beast wields the blade while Eugene wonders what it is trying to do. The monster's red eyes glowed and fixed on his prey. With a single swing, the Minotaur strikes its blade onto the ground, causing the entire earth to tremble. The ground was reduced to rubble, causing Galpedic to fall as well. Seeing this, Eugene jumps down. Gathering all of his remaining energy, he reaches out his hand for his comrade, but he was slipping away. Just before he could reach him, he got frozen in his spot as a magic circle appeared below him. It was Sirinor's doing. Eugene was furious and questioned what the hell she was doing. Sirinor tries to explain that what they're fighting against is a minotaur who is considered strong even among high-rank monsters. Even a vampire like him could die to it. However, Eugene wasn't having any of it, and he struck his sword against her. He calls her out for overstepping her boundaries. Romary Sirinor apologizes, saying she cannot just stand by and watch a vampire charge headfirst to his death. She gently tries to explain that if he charges at a minute or recklessly, his chances of winning are slim. If he truly wishes to save his friend, he needs to assess the situation once he is calmer. She couldn't believe this labyrinth is that big in scale to host a minotaur. She thought they would encounter a cyclops in the worst-case scenario. Just then, the labyrinth wall shifts direction and out comes Sir Galpedic. He comments that he did not expect the mage to use earth magic. He says he thought of her as another eccentric who could make chimeras at best. Eugene, furious, grabs Galpedic by the neck. He finally comes to comprehend that it was he who turned Galpedic into that state. Galpedic scoffs, saying he only brought Eugene to him because he looked so desperate to see his dear friend again. To Eugene's shock, the man effortlessly manages to shove his hand away, commenting that he is much ruder than the rumors say. Eugene manages manages to get hold of his glove and takes it out, revealing his hand and the markings on it. He then exposes the truth. Lugate's brute strength wasn't his own. Sirinor points out that the pattern is definitely a magic formula that lets you inherit someone else's power. At first, it was used for passing power between humans, but once they began inheriting the power of non-human beings, it was completely banned, and so it is a forbidden spell. Bro really downloaded strength illegally and called it talent. Lugate sneers and says it is just a cowardly excuse made by those who want to monopolize power. Eugene and Sirinor get surrounded by the Templars earlier, and Lugate reveals that they are the chosen ones. When despair descends upon the world, they will be the ones chosen by God to survive. Eugene finally understands what is happening. They beat Galpedic by borrowing another strength. And then he boasted it to him as if it were his own. Enraged, he decides to make sure that this worthless guy understands where he really stands. Without wasting a moment of hesitation, Eugene instantly activates his powers. The others watched in shock as Crimson's and Blue's mighty powers collided with each other. Sirinor marveled at seeing such incredible power and wondered if an ordinary vampire could unleash energy like this. Lugate gets even more hyped up, saying he was not the only one who had been hiding his strength. Unfortunately for Eugene, he has no intention of holding back. But just then, the labyrinth pattern changes. This place isn't a dungeon, it's a betrayal simulator. Lugate already knew the traps of the labyrinth, so he was safe while the other two began to fall to their deaths. Eugene instantly signals the woman to activate her magic circle, and so, before Lugate could disappear behind a wall like a coward, Eugene managed to swing his sword inside. The sword breaks in half, but not before cutting a part of Lugate's face. Lugate remained stunned. He had heard Eugene was strong, but what he just showed him went far beyond what he had imagined. If he had faced the man head-on, he couldn't have guaranteed his victory. It seems using Galpedic as bait instead of killing him outright really was the right choice. Finally, the final sacrifice will be offered. Sirinors continue to form magic circles so they cannot fall to their death, but she was reaching her limit and apologized, saying she could not form them any longer. But now they had reached the ground. She watches Eugene instantly head away. She becomes frustrated, regretting stepping here. She should have pretended to be oblivious and ran. However, she quits her complaints as she sees Eugene bringing Galpedic in his arms. He asks if she can save him. Sirinor reveals that healing magic isn't really her specialty, but she can do her best. Just then, Miran reports that it checked around and there is no exit here at all. It seems like it is the farthest end of the labyrinth, a sealed boss room. It says there is so much water energy here, so it thought it could do something. But even as a water spirit, it cannot control any of what is in here, especially the pool of blood that feels out of place. Eugene scans the area and notices the eyes. They were what the mage saw drawn deep underground. Eugene questions the water spirit about why it cannot control this. Miran responds, saying that by principle it can only control the blood of the dead, which means the owner of this blood is still alive. To make things worse, an enormous creature leaps out of the blood pool. Eugene remains alert while telling Miran to do its best to find a way out. The creature was gigantic, to say the least. Eugene takes note of how Galpedic still cannot move. Eugene knows he has to first make sure that the thing cannot move freely, and so he leaps towards the creature, ready to swing his sword. He smoothly walks towards the red pool of blood and up towards the monstrous creature. He quickly struck the monster's body, but to his shock, his sword shattered into pieces. The monster roars in pain but remains undefeated. Bright light emanates from its throat, causing Eugene to retract his moves. Fresh blood streaks were seen in the red water. He stares at his broken sword, realizing even a normal sword cannot leave a scratch on this beast. In that case, he decides to make do with something else. While the giant demon lord still raged on without mercy, Eugene decides to change his strategy. Some weird streaks of red began to emerge from his armor and swiftly surround his broken sword. It seems his sword had upgraded to another new level, and he prepares to fight off the monster once again. Eugene instantly leaps into the air, ready to swing his new sword, but it was not that easy. The monster was way too powerful and remained undefeated. While Eugene was doing his best, coming at the monster from different directions to remain unpredictable, the monster wasn't having it. It kept attacking Eugene constantly. The monster was radiating fearsome purple energy. With it, it pushes Eugene away, causing him to hit the stone wall. Sirinor, who was busy healing Galpedic, becomes shocked to see the scene unfold. She was terrified, and she addressed the unconscious knight, suggesting that he snap out of it, considering his dear friend is in danger. On the other hand, Eugene has now realized that the mage was telling the truth after all. High-rank monsters are on a completely different level of strength. Eugene becomes alert once again as it sees the monster making its next move. It had positioned itself towards Sirinor and Galpedic. Eugene's eyes widen as he realizes what it is about to do. The monster's eyes glowed unpredictably, and he suddenly shot streaks of red towards them at a great speed. But Eugene quickly positions himself as a shield in front of the other two, taking the hits all to himself. Sirinor helplessly watches the scene unfold. Eugene's steps staggered as he faced the beast alone. Powerlessness is a feeling he has grown endlessly familiar with for more than 10 years. He should get used to it, yet for some reason, it hurts even more than it did back then. He stares at the creature, launching more streaks of red energy towards him, which hit him relentlessly. His vision blurs as he stares at his unconscious friend. But just then, Galpedic starts to regain consciousness. And the first thing he sees, his friend is getting absolutely destroyed for him. New trauma unlocked. Earlier, Sirinor was watching Eugene lose the fight in horror. She knew there was no way for her to escape either. They were both doomed. She tearfully closes her eyes, ready to accept her demise. She internally apologizes to her master for not being good enough. But just then, she hears a familiar voice calling Eugene. It was Sir Galpedic. His eyes were filled with regret, as he weakly pointed out that Eugene got involved in this because of him too. Sirinor suggests they run while they can, as they are the beast's next targets. But Galpedic refuses. He curses Lugitz for using him as bait to get Eugene, revealing how he was after him from the start. He blames himself for going around saying Eugene is his friend and being a burden like this. Staggering, he continues blaming himself for being weak. It was a relationship that could have ended as quickly as it began, but because of Eugene's inner and physical strength, Galpedic was instantly charmed. He did not want to let go. Rather, he wanted strong enough to stand by Eugene's side. But he believes it is all over now. Man really said my bad bro while bleeding out. He grabs the monster's attention and pushes Sirinor away from harm's reach. He apologizes to Eugene, hoping to be reborn as a knight who serves him if he were to ever reincarnate. Just then, the monster shoots another series of fatal stakes at Galpedic, but that man stares at death in the face bravely while thinking about his dear friend Eugene. Eugene, who was initially drowsy from being injured, opens his eyes wide as he witnesses Galpedic's death. This was clearly the last straw. He grits his teeth in anger, not caring to hide his vampire identity any longer. Sirinor watches in astonishment as red streaks of immense energy are released from Eugene, a sight never seen before. He crushes the beast attacks. His form is now elevated. His eyes changed color, and he grew paler. After a while, Eugene regains his energy thanks to his new form. He rises up and hisses at the creature that killed his friend. Sirinor couldn't believe the sight. She couldn't put a name to it, but Sir Eugene's body was going through some kind of change. Even the blood puddles in the surroundings were reacting to him. It is no secret now that he is different from ordinary vampires. Sirinor knew she was clearly witnessing something historical right now. Front row seats to a walking red flag evolution. Furious and driven by revenge, Eugene gathers plenty of dark mana in his claws and directs it towards his opponent. It instantly strikes the monster, causing it to roar in pain. The eyes that were displayed on the walls began to shine brightly. Sirinor surprisingly watches the blood puddles getting shallower by the second. Eugene had clearly spliced the monster into pieces, but it was quickly reassembling itself. Sirinor was appalled to see its quick healing power, but it likes being actively healed through magic. She watches the monster regenerate in shock. Just then, a realization hits her. The monster's critical injuries were healed right after one of the eyes opened, and the blood patterns got shallower. This might mean that the Labyrinth is using blood as an ingredient to heal the monster. Eugene might have realized it as well, as he instantly shifts his aim towards one of the eyes. As soon as he punches the eye in the iris, a lot of blood leaks out. Eugene continues to hit more of the pupils one by one. Eugene has realized that the owner of this labyrinth is not the Minotaur, the hundreds of people who had gone missing. The labyrinth environment was built for the long-term survival of humans. Everything made sense now. They were basically eaten by the labyrinth. Yeah, no, this is not a dungeon, it's a cannibal Airbnb. And this entire labyrinth is a god that those guys were worshipping and sacrificing offerings to. The monster screeched in pain and struggled every second. Meanwhile, on the other side of the labyrinth, Templars prayed consistently to the Messiah. They urged him to come forth and bring unto them the reign of salvation and mercy to this land. Lugitz laughs wickedly as he watches this sight, hoping for dear God to become even more wrathful and run wild with rage. He hopes for God to listen to his prayers now that he has opened his eye. Sirinor watches in shock, seeing all of the blood puddles have been absorbed instantly. From the goblet in the middle of the room, purple energy begins to emanate. It glows brighter, revealing an odd presence. It was of a monster with a red eye in the middle of its body. To her surprise, it begins to flee the battlefield. The creature hits the roof and goes flying away. Even the boss said, "Nah, I'm not built for this." Sirinor was getting surprised every minute. She has never heard of a high-ranking monster escaping the dungeon and wonders what to do. Things might get dangerous considering there is a town nearby. Just then, Miran happily returns to Eugene, revealing that it found an exit. However, it was surprised to see that there was already an exit here and its efforts had been wasted. To make things worse, the place was collapsing. It finally reaches Eugene, suggesting they get out of here, but it gasps in utter surprise, seeing the dead body of Galpedic. It had no comforting words to offer. Sirinor watches the vampire grieving the death of a mere human and becomes curious. Eugene gently caresses his dead friend's face, surprising her. She has never seen a vampire that hides his identity by pretending to be a knight and forming a bond with humans, someone with such noble blood too. Later, we see Eugene sinking his teeth deep into Galpedic's neck. It seems their friendship just got a firmware update. Earlier, the high-ranking dungeon monster had escaped. It stares at the town nearby and groans. Things were about to get bloody. Sirinor explains to Eugene about the origin of vampires. She reveals that origins are the highest-ranked and most noble vampires. She says she didn't know when she first met Eugene, but she sees it now. He possesses the blood of an original vampire. She further adds on that an origin can resurrect someone who recently died to make them their subordinate. Eugene already knew the process. He bites the neck of his target, then gives them his own blood. But he was surprised nonetheless. He reveals to her that he has done it once before, but that guy's mind couldn't handle it. Sirinor admits that most humans are like that. However, it might be different for Sir Galpedic. She reveals how she has heard from her master that if a person with mental fortitude takes in an origin's blood, they keep their sanity as well as their abilities from when they were human. She believes it would be worth a try. The problem is that he is an honorable knight, so he might consider it an insult to be given a second life as a vampire. If that happens, he might end up attacking them. Eugene ponders deeply. He never told Galpedic what he was, and there is no way for him to know how he feels about vampires. However, as he recalls all their memories together, he guesses there is no other way than to just ask him, and so he sinks his teeth into Galpedic's skin. However, he becomes a little taken aback to see his blood going into the man too quickly, making him unable to take his teeth out. Too fast, the fangs can't be withdrawn. Eugene widened his eyes, alarmed. The inheritance ritual was commencing, and the subject was Lord's possession. Under the ritual of blood, the subject's soul will belong to the Lord. All of the subject's power shall also belong to the Lord. This is the inheritance. The familiar red streaks of energy begin to surround the area once again. Galpedic's eyes glowed red, and streams of energy began to radiate from him as he wailed in pain. It shone so bright that it formed a circle, shooting straight into the sky. This causes the whole mountain region to shine fiercely. On the other side of the mountain region, the town was lit on fire. There was chaos everywhere as the villagers tried to evacuate their homes and their loved ones, all to save themselves from the roamer that has been unleashed from the broken labyrinth. Lugitz watches the horrors in amusement. It is because the moment he receives his reward for the sacrifices he has offered to the labyrinth has come. The human's heir will never know that the labyrinth and he planned all of this. Once the villagers disappear and the level is at an all-time high because of the Minotaur's attacks, he will appear and take it down. That is his reward for having given up all those offerings to the labyrinth until now. By using the human nature to seek salvation that deepened the despair one is in. He plans to become a messiah who saves everyone, and so he hopes the villagers die in despair. More so that he is worshipped as a messiah. The villagers watched in horror as more and more monsters made their way towards the town. They were now trapped. A child and his mother tried to escape the hellhole. However, they were soon surrounded by a monstrous creature. But as if by miracle, they were saved by Eugene. He locks his claws onto the creature's mouth and kills it. Lugate's mouth gapes open, dumbfounded. He couldn't believe that Eugene was here. He had thought the Minotaur absorbed his blood and became stronger. He was still perplexed as he had offered Eugene as the last sacrifice. This means he should be dead. He wonders if Eugene suddenly became stronger on the brink of death. If that is true, then he wonders, who the hell is this? It becomes even more shocked as Eugene turns towards him, questioning if Sir Jevon knows he has caused all this mess. He didn't smile, saying it doesn't matter now as Lugates will pay the price for his sins right here. Just then, Galpedic pounces on the man. The intensity was so high, causing the tower to break apart. The man of the hour smirks, questioning if he was missed. His eyes glowed red, and his claws were sharp, saying it is time for him to get back at Lugates for humiliating him in the tournament. The high-ranking tension wants to continue to attack the civilians. Eugene instantly rushes towards the beast with his claws ready. The civilians talked, looking like someone was finally here and fighting a monster. Seeing the knight clad in dark armor and having red eyes, they instantly recognized him as Sir Eugene. They cheered for him, glad that they are safe now and their village will be protected. Just then a man says they're all wrong and that he is in fact their messiah. He He cheers that the heavens must have sent him to them for salvation. This means that the rumored prophecy was correct. They watch as Eugene effortlessly fights the beast. His power is now even more intensified. He had surrounded the beast amid his red streaks of energy, completely overpowering it. The townsfolk erupted in cheers as background music for their new hero. Or should I say Messiah. Seeing Lugates defeated, the Templars began to panic and run, saying there will be disaster. Lugates tries to convince the believers that he has inherited God's powers and will be the god of the new era. But his delusions are proven wrong as Galpedic comes to haunt him once again. He breaks his sword into multiple pieces, mocking and questioning what happened to his monstrous strength from earlier. Lugates was shocked, wondering if this comeback has always been this strong. Eugene arrives as well, and Galpedic asks his master for the orders. Eugene shoots death glares at Lugates and tells Galpedic to kill every single one of them. Lugates instantly makes a run for it, but to no avail. Galpedic grins and blocks his way. That was it for Lugates. After the nightmarish word of what that man has done spread all over the Evergrow estate, Eugene was titled a hero for saving the people, and everyone threw flower petals at him wherever he went. However, it did not matter to Eugene. The fact that Galpedic was alive once again was enough for him. The scene shifts to Galpedic awkwardly staring at Eugene while Miran clung to him. Miran tearfully reveals that she was worried he had become BBQ for the orcs. Galpedic had no idea who this clingy creature was and asked Eugene. Eugene realizes that the man couldn't see Miran before and reveals that it follows him around. Miran was offended that it was all due to his introduction. It introduces him as a water spirit. Eugene reveals that humans usually cannot see it. Sirinor says it can also see something, to which Eugene says that maybe hanging out with him all this time has made her capable of perceiving it. Eugene then instructs Galpedic to drink animal blood from now on, considering that he is his subordinate. Eugene reveals that he needs to drink monstrous blood about twice a month, but he is not certain about himself. Galpedic ponders and questions if he has to avoid the sunlight as well. He decides to test it out, but the water spirit tries to stop his idiotic behavior. But to everyone's shock, he was totally fine under the sunlight. Sirinor points out that Eugene is in Origin and only normal vampires get burned by sunlight. Origins are the most noble and supreme vampires who can walk in the sunlight just fine. She says it makes sense for Sir Galpedic to be perfectly fine as well. Eugene becomes surprised to hear this, but in the next moment, he complains that he had to work so hard to avoid sunlight all this time. Galpedic begins to tease Eugene for stating that he is part elf earlier. He finally understands why this man kept a hat on during the day and always rejected his requests for a duel. He says he no longer has reason to turn him down and says he is looking forward to their duels, but he pauses as Eugene looks at him weirdly. Sirinor instructs that he cannot say Eugene's name anymore and is going to address him as master from now on. It is because he is his subordinate. Galpedic begins to protest that they're friends and he shouldn't do that. Man just respawned and is already arguing about job titles. Back in the dungeon, Eugene had explained to him that he is no longer human. He had cautioned Galpedic that there will be a lot of restraints and threats to his life from now on. He has given his friend the option to not come with him if he feels betrayed. But Galpedic had said he doesn't care if he is human or not. What matters is that he likes Eugene and that he saved him. He says he would be an idiot who would forget the favor his savior has done him. And so he agreed to be Eugene's subordinate. Seeing Galpedic's endless bickering makes Eugene smile. Galpedic then asks about Laban and Partek. His gaze drifted slightly, thoughtful, as he wondered whether they had managed to carry it out properly. The scene shifts to Eugene and Galpedic settling down in Jevon's office. Jevon Evergrow reveals how St. Abbey sent Eugene a letter of thanks. They said they were able to eliminate the heretics from within the Abbey thanks to him. Jevon reveals that the Templars have been using anti-mana stones that were deemed illegal to raid labyrinths and expand their cult. Eugene was the one to realize that and dispatch mercenaries to stop them. As far as Eugene knows, the Templars are supposed to carry out the will of God. He says he found it suspicious they were helping raid labyrinths. With all the ominous rumors about the end of the world, he was wondering what kind of oracle they might have had from God to help with the raids. Jevon stares at the man and reveals that House Evergrow sponsors St. Abbey. They were very trustworthy, but if they did not know about this heretical organization, their family's honor might have been sullied. And so he thanks Eugene in the place of House Evergrow. Eugene stands up saying he is glad to be of help. Before leaving, Jevon welcomes back Galpedic. As soon as the two men leave, Jevon's demeanor instantly shifts. The warmth disappears, replaced by something colder. Later, the mercenaries, Eugene and Galpedic, gather at a pub to celebrate Galpedic's return. Galpedic shows his gratitude to them for saving him. He refers to Eugene as Master, saying he is the reason he was able to come back in one piece. A man's eyes light up to hear him address Eugene as Master, and says that he should allow them to serve him as well. But Eugene refuses, making him disappointed. Galpedic sighs. He was finding the taste of the beer terrible, making him realize he has the taste buds of a vampire now. Lost his humanity and his ability to enjoy cheap beer. Truly tragic. Laban notices how his eyes are a different color than before, and questions if something happened in the labyrinth. Galpedic smirks and begins to joke like usual, shifting the topic. Partek tells Eugene it was really impressive that he was able to uncover the truth about the Abbey. Even Lord Jevon was surprised. Eugene smirks, wondering what really shocked the Lord. He asks Partek if he truly believes the Abbey sent him a letter of thanks out of genuine gratitude. They contemplate the possibility of Lugates being used as a scapegoat. Eugene says he led Mercenaries to arrest the Templars, not the Abbess. He further reveals that if they raided the Abbey itself and sullied House Evergrow's honor, they would have chased him. And so he gave them a bit of an opening so they could only blame one person. And so Eugene already assumed that it is Lord Jevon behind it. He then suggests to Partek that they leave this place discreetly tonight. However, the next morning they were being chased. One of the enemy knights recognizes a man in a black leather robe on a black horse to be Eugene. Lugates might have been a criminal, but he was Lord Jevon's favorite knight on the estate. And so, Jevon was upset he was not able to punish him himself because Galpedic killed him. It was the same as insulting the Lord and staining his honor. And so the knight's goal was to make Eugene pay for this and put a scar on Pretty Little's face. However, his distraction costs him his life. He gets beheaded in a swift motion, and Eugene signals his mercenaries to shoot arrows at the rest of the enemies. Soon, the tide of the battle was in Eugene's favor. The enemy was soon caught. Galpedic praises his master's tactics, saying his swordsmanship has gotten better. He comments that his saber is the best when on horseback and asks who he learned that from. Eugene softly stares at him and reveals it as him. He was technically not lying. At the time when Eugene gave him his blood, all of the techniques and experience Galpedic had built up came into his head. Imagine dying and coming back just to realize your skills got copied like homework. Eugene wonders about the voice he heard back then. Was it an illusion or a voice from the heavens? He gets cut off from his thoughts as the enemy calls him shameless for showing up when he has insulted Lord Jevon. He looks at him in disappointment, saying he was even going to ask him to be one of his knights. They accuse him of almost dying in the dungeon due to his lack of skills and blame it all on Sir Lugates. Eugene becomes furious, saying all this chirping is getting on his nerves. Galpedic, on the other hand, remains calm and greets his old comrades. Eugene takes out his sword, hoping they're all prepared to die, saying he will only let one of them live. But Galpedic suggests they take them as hostages instead. It is tradition that you respect the honor of the opponent that fought bravely, even if they're an enemy. Plus, if they take them hostage, they can demand a ransom. Eugene obviously had to agree with his subordinate when the matter came to money. He picks up a log, realizing he only has to keep them alive. He promises to make sure their limbs are intact, and begins to give them a good beating. Later, the hostages were brought to stay at a luxurious dwelling, shocking them. Honestly, at this point, they're scared to ask what the catch is. The Palin Trading Company's deputy manager promised Eugene that she would personally take good care of them. Eugene decides to get ransom from Lord Jevon for those guys, surprising Pachella. Eugene then hands her his armor, saying it needs fixing. He challenges her previously exaggerated remarks of how even a dragon's fangs cannot pierce his armor. He says it turns out just one skewer alone was enough. Pachella might have tried to hide her embarrassment and ensure the armor would be more durable. She just got hit with a live product review and couldn't even argue back. To Galpedic's excitement, Eugene orders new armor for him too. Galpedic lit up instantly like someone just told him there's free food. Eugene affirms that Galpedic is his subordinate now. Honestly, out of everyone here, the guy who literally died is somehow living the best life. Pachella watches their uncalled for romance and smiles. She was satisfied to have a good eye for people. Who would have thought Eugene would be able to make the famous Sir Galpedic one of his people? She decides to get him some armor as he does bring a lot of loot. It is called customer service after all. She asks Eugene about his next destination. He reveals they will be hitting the advanced regions for dungeons for now. Pachella smirks, declaring that he needs money for bigger dreams. She then suggests him a place, giving Eugene much to think about. In the meanwhile, at the Evergrow estate, Jevon was losing it. He was furious that all the knights of House Evergrow could not handle a single knight and were captured as hostages instead. His usual calm demeanor darkens terribly as he thinks of Eugene. He knew the man was stronger than Lugates, but he did not know he was this strong. He could not understand if he should simply simply leave him like this. But that might not be possible considering he is the man who killed his own knights. He really thought he was dealing with a side character. Just then, his gaze turns upon a map lying on the floor. As he thinks about it, he remembers how Eugene came here under the Palin Trading Company's recommendation. Jevon assumed that Eugene's next destination is also a demon realm that has been contracted with the trading company. He grins, knowing where Eugene is headed now. It is Karlsbagen Peninsula's Filia. Let's just say he was right. Eugene and the Mercenaries, who had already boarded a ship to Karlsbagen. Galpedic reveals that the area has almost no influence from the central church. Marcus Archibald, who reigned over the peninsula, turned out to be a cult member, but he fell from power because he became too desperate. So, they are in a complex situation because of that now. He further reveals that the Bishop of Karlsbagen ran away as soon as the Marquisdom collapsed, so they lost their trust. Eugene thinks of it as good news. Of course he does. This man thrives in chaos like it is his comfort zone. Just then, Miran approaches them. In a panic state, he reveals that a mage is dying over there. It was talking about Sirinor, who is clearly seasick. Way to exaggerate. Galpedic sighs and asks her why she came with them if she gets so seasick. It would be a lie to say that she would be all right. In a disheveled state, she says that she thought her magic would be of help to the noble origin. Galpedic addresses her as a creepy raccoon and asks her for real purpose. Sirinor gives in and reveals she needs a lot of materials from monsters to create a chimera. It is their faction's ultimate goal to research and create their own chimera. But she says she is not lying about wanting to help Eugene, swearing on her faction and magic. Galpedic teases that she is basically telling Eugene not to throw her out. Sirinor further reveals that it is the spirit who should reveal its purpose, as it is weird to see a spirit entering a contract with a vampire. Mirian's purpose was clear and adjacent to Eugene's: money, travel, and collect gold. Sirinor finds it insane that a spirit likes money. They keep on rambling while Galpedic and Eugene look the other way. The mercenaries were busy in other activities. Laban was clearly losing to his captain. Galpedic asks Eugene about his, saying that he has never seriously told him. Hearing this, Eugene begins to ponder deeply. In truth, he had two goals: remembering and revenge. He needs to regain all his memories to figure out who he was and use the scarlet mana crystals to become stronger so that he did not die like in his past life. The Kaler Kingdom, Central Church, and the paladin that killed him are always after vampires, so Eugene can never let his guard down. Galpedic watches him ponder. He assures Eugene that he does not have to tell him if he doesn't want to, as he really doesn't care what his goals are. He says he is living a new life thanks to him. After all, he is certain they will have all kinds of fun in the future, saying he is already excited. Eugene was surprised and he questions if Galpedic doesn't want bigger things in life. Galpedic answers that this is the bigger thing in life. A knight should chase after honor and glory within battle. Plus, basking in the sun and traveling around the world is great. If he were dead, he would float through the dark and dim rivers instead, and so he thanks his master once again, asserting that his goals are his. All he needs to do is give him his order. Eugene was a little taken aback by his sincerity, but he gets distracted as the water spirit clings to him again. In competition, it also tells Eugene that it likes to be with him, but it motivates Eugene to save up gold and build a whole golden castle in all. Sirinor also raises her hand, saying she will help him as much as she can. The mercenaries hear them and cheer, saying that they are with Eugene as well, needing no money. Bro accidentally started a cult without even trying, and they are unpaid interns too. Eugene sighs deeply. Although it is annoying, it looks like he has a lot more people he needs to protect now. However, he could not help but find the situation strange. He smiled, realizing it doesn't feel bad. They finally reached the harbor city of the peninsula. He was greeted by the captain of the mercenary guild, Byrne. He says he has come to greet him on behalf of the Palin Trading Company's Mofern branch. He reveals that he will be guiding Eugene to the barony, and so they all set off. On the way, Byrne informs Eugene how the barony is one of the few places in the peninsula that are managed properly. However, recently they have not been able to kill one intermediate rank monster. Eugene already knew it was because of the Wyverns. They always strike them and interfere whenever they attempt to read. They only ever attack themselves after it caught them using Heartfield. Eugene knew they were advanced monsters, and this might be his chance to get some scarlet mana crystals. Byrne suggests Eugene pay his fees if he comes across bandits instead. Eugene becomes confused and asks, what do Wyverns have to do with bandits? Byrne's expression instantly turns serious. He hesitates to tell the truth, as Eugene seemed like an obviously spoiled noble, and he was told not to get on his nerves. Yep, rich kid with plot armor. But you also cannot have him dying to a bandit when he hasn't even got into the location. He then notices Galpedic, who looks pretty strong, but he guesses her. Eugene is most likely one of those typical novels that uses someone talented like Galpedic to take all the credit. He reminds Eugene his goal is to clear the demon realm, not the bandits. The water spirit whispers in Eugene's ear that he does not like this man. Just then, Eugene senses danger ahead and asks Galpedic for his spear. This obviously confuses Byrne. He watches Eugene narrow his eyes and aims for the path ahead. He then threw it forward. A hidden enemy dropped instantly. It was an intruder. The intruders were shocked to see that they had been caught so early in the game. Byrne grits his teeth in fury, realizing they have been ambushed, but it was surprising considering he did not even sense a presence while Sir Eugene noticed instantly. Eugene orders Byrne to protect the carriage. But before he could start attacking the enemy, Byrne reminds him to pay the fees rather than getting injured here. However, Eugene ignores him, saying he worries too much. And so with Galpedic, Eugene fastens his horse's pace. Byrne watched them go, tension tightening in his chest. He knew he was right to have a bad feeling from the start. It seems Eugene is just another irresponsible and overconfident noble. 4 bandit groups, 2 days, all gone. Eugene, 1. Ambushers, 0. This was not a typical cleanup job. It was a massacre done on a tight schedule. Meanwhile, Byrne finally realized that this man was the one he had been warned about. Eugene stood in front of the captured bandits and grew suspicious as he saw their fancy-looking weapons. It turns out they had stolen them from a man who was bragging about stealing them from the Fairchild family. It's amazing that even in a fantasy world, the economy is in shambles. The bandit leader begs for mercy, offering slaves, the expensive weapons, and his entire criminal LinkedIn profile. Eugene considers it for a second, not morally, but financially. He really thought about high food costs and immediately lost interest. Byrne watches the scene in disbelief. He had never expected this guy to wipe out 4 bandit groups that were the village's headache in just 2 days, and he is now casually discussing grocery budgets with criminals. No wonder this person was sent personally by the Palin Guild's deputy manager. Eugene clearly was not concerned about their fate and just wanted to move out with his group immediately. In response, Galpedic bursts into laughter as he sees the villagers look at Eugene with miserable yet fangirl eyes, believing he was going to be the lord of their village. Byrne, won over by Eugene's aura, steps up. He tells Eugene about how the bandits he subjugated were a famous faction in the area. Thus, the surrounding villages and this region are now like a den without a master. In other words, if Eugene wishes, he can become the lord right now. Miran was obviously happy about the offer because, of course, it was about money. Eugene begins to contemplate the idea of having power or status. Such a title could help keep the central church in check. However, the most important thing to Eugene is the red mana stone. Is the position of a lord valuable enough to divert the resources needed to search for it? Before he can decide, Partek worriedly barges inside. He reveals how the bandits, captured as slaves, stole horses and fled. Apparently, they had metal shards in their mouths and cut the ropes. Honestly, respect the creativity. Therapy needed, but respect. And since they attacked all at once, Laban was injured while bringing them food. Eugene does not react to Laban being injured, but the second he sees Partek has a tiny scratch on the back of his hand, oh, it is more than over. Eugene's eyes filled with rage. This is personal now. Favoritism was loud enough. Eugene tells Galpedic to guard the village while he's gone, and to tell the chief that he accepts the offer to become lord, like he's confirming a Netflix subscription. And what he does next makes those bandits regret surviving the first time. Meanwhile, the intruders had set fire to the church, laughing, thinking Eugene was off dying in wyvern hunting. One of the bandits was bold enough to declare himself master and slay some of the church people cruelly. He declares plans to take over the silver mine on the mountain. Little did he know he was doomed, because in the next second, everything goes silent. A furious Eugene approaches him from behind, clutching his head by his red claws. Eugene now knows the reason bandits were swarming here, the silver mine. The intruders watch in horror as Eugene kills one of their men. They pathetically try to escape and beg for mercy once again, but Eugene did not care anymore. Without any consideration, he kills them all. His eyes then soon fell on the church that was on fire and the villagers who were trying to put it out. He advises them not to be afraid, introducing himself as Knight Yan Eugene. He assures them that the trash that tried to occupy the place no longer exists, so they should not fear and be at ease. He was about to declare his will to protect this village, and that's exactly when something stronger shows up. Someone had shot a bolt at him. Eugene quickly catches hold of the crossbow bolt. The water spirit cautions Eugene, disclosing how it feels an intense energy coming from the forest on the level of a higher rank monster from a demonic realm. Eugene uses his sharp sight to catch hold of the perpetrator who has shot him. Deep within the woods, he sees a shadowy figure standing in a tall tree. The man looks at Eugene with disdain, declaring that he has already marked this place as his hunting ground. He calls Eugene a stupid, unscrupulous, and ruthless roamer scumbag. As the man tries to aim the arrow once again, Eugene appears in front of him. He gets shocked to see the man's vampire fangs and red eyes. The two exchange some blows at fierce speed. The man notices Eugene's surprised expression and, in an amusing tone, questions why he was so surprised when he is a vampire himself. He asks if it is natural for a ruthless roamer to be surprised, and if this is why he is walking around looking so unsightly. He introduces himself as Delmando, in whom flows the cold blue blood of the Noferos clan. Using his powers, he commands Eugene to kneel before him. "Ah, Delmando, you delusional fool." The tables turned sooner than you could expect. Delmando dropped to his knees and broke down. He had never heard of a roamer wielding a silver sword and realized he was an origin vampire, basically the CEO of his entire species. And now, he's trying to undo the worst mistake of his life. Delmando starts begging for his life, his clan, his future, and his bloodline, and even throws in his father's name for emotional damage. Sirinor had educated Eugene that, to a vampire, parent refers to the one who turned them into a kind of the night. He decides to threaten the poor guy more, who starts headbutting the ground. Because why not? Free entertainment. Eugene ordered Delmando to spread rumors about him as the new master of the village and set off for his next destination. Miran does have some concerns about the vampire's loyalty, but Eugene reminds her that the man swore on his family and father's name. But it is without doubt that the kin of the night is famous for being cunning and vile. Wait, yes. Self-awareness hits like a truck as he remembers that he is one of them too. With zero filter and hesitation, Miran agrees, infuriating Eugene. Eugene looks in the front as they reach Baron Biogalen's castle, where another problem awaits them. Much to their disappointment, the Baron refuses to deploy additional troops for their third subjugation squad. In exchange, Eugene requests that he increase his success reward. He says the Baron has failed the ruin subjugation twice already. For a third attempt, more troops should be deployed, so if the Baron won't provide troops, he must increase the reward. The Baron gives him a death glare and suddenly bursts into laughter. He had recognized Eugene to be a bold and daring knight and agreed to accept his proposal. He asks Eugene if giving them half of the byproducts and mana stones from the subjugated monsters will suffice. Eugene affirms and leaves for the annex that the Baron had arranged for him. Partek does have his concerns: low troop count and high death probability. Basic math. But Galpedic assured him everything will be fine as long as they trust your abilities, Jane, as they have done so till now. Little does Eugene know someone else has already decided his fate. The next morning, the subjugation squad set out for the Filia ruins. Many of the Baron's men were certain that the squad had the lowest chance of success, but one of them was intrigued by the knight in black. But he could not understand why they were going like this when they certainly needed more troops to have a chance, and so he becomes anxious, knowing that it might not depend on how strong the knight is. Making up his mind, he rushes towards the knight in black and asks for his time. At sunset, Sir Oleg meets with the Baron, gifting him some byproducts from a roamer that he caught near the castle. It is then that the Baron requests him to dispose of someone who insulted him, the knight in black armor, Jan Eugene, the knight leading the third subjugation squad that left today. The Baron reveals how Eugene will likely die quickly inside the demonic realm, but just in case he escapes, he wants her alive right in front of the ruins to kill him. Sir Oleg clearly was a dog on a leash with anger issues as he became infuriated that his owner was insulted, and so he was to bring down the iron hammer in his stead. In truth, behind the scenes, the Baron had been paired by a higher authority for killing Eugene, Jevon Evergrow. Even in a letter written with pretended elegance, the malice could not be hidden, but the Baron knows it is nothing bad for him. It does not matter if one knight from out of town dies. And just like that, Eugene isn't just hunting anymore, he is being hunted. The Wyvern is the ruler of the Filia ruins. The demonic realm where Wyvern resides has open skies, basically a flying creature's dream map with zero nerfs and full dominance. It even controls harpies to drain the subjugation squad's strength before attacking, so charging in blindly would be a massive waste of resources. But Eugene wasn't stupid. He was aware that its open nature also means there is room to lure them out. These cunning creatures that analyze their enemies won't just leave the subjugation squad alone, therefore they need appropriate preparations. He had gathered around 40 capable men, which, considering the circumstances, was either a solid army or a very organized funeral procession. Galpedic reports that among the prisoners who swore loyalty, the good fighters were organized as soldiers and the weak ones as porters. As for Partek, he will make a formation to protect Sirinor and the supplies. Galpedic, on the other hand, was visibly excited for the fight, like a man who just found out violence was back in season. Eugene decided they would camp for the night and enter the ruins at daybreak. Nothing says good morning like potential death. And so at daybreak, this set off for the ruins. The men were confused, irritated even, because in their minds, building a base outside the battlefield was like setting up Wi-Fi in a place you're about to leave, completely useless. Some of the former bandits, who had only pledged loyalty to avoid slavery, were especially skeptical. Following an outsider night for real just doesn't sit right. That doubt didn't last long. Galpedic instantly pulls on the horse's reins and stops as he senses a presence. Eugene orders his men to prepare for battle, and they instantly set up iron shields in the front. Harpies descended at terrifying speed, and just like that, the battlefield turned into a live-action version of Jurassic Park, except everyone here was underpaid and underprepared. Arrows flew non-stop as the men tried to take down the Harpies. One managed to get dangerously close to Eugene, only to be grabbed mid-air and slammed into the ground as it owed him money. Upon Eugene's signal, Sirinor instantly set to work and began to chant some spells using her staff. She continues to focus on the spell while Partek protects her. The Harpies knew their attacks weren't working, and they began to move strangely, much to the knight's shock. They all gathered in the sky and instantly lunged downwards, all targeting Eugene simultaneously. However, to everyone's shock, he manages to leave unscathed and eliminate all of the Harpies in one go with his mighty sword. Right on cue, Sirinor's spell begins to bloom and work too. The pink strands of her magic bind the Harpies, locking them in place like bugs caught in a very aesthetic web. Eugene was glad that things had worked out for the best and told the men that the real subjugation starts now. He orders them to dispose of the monsters and keep only the necessary byproducts. The bandit clearly did not want to do it. One of the knights, who had been observing his complaining attitude from the beginning, questions whether his mind has changed now. It tells the ex-bandit not to doubt his commander so easily now that he has sworn loyalty. It is because the only way to increase his survival rate on the battlefield is this way. The man was a bit annoyed, but he decided to trust the commander anyway. After all, it is more comfortable than banditry, and it could be a job for life. But just as the group started gaining momentum, Eugene dropped another unexpected decision: retreat. After all that, the men were confused again, borderline offended, as they had just warmed up for a fight, only to be told the event was cancelled. He also says they will be mounting the collected heads on the stockade, so they should move them too. When questioned, he simply smiled and told them to trust him. And somehow, that was more unsettling than any monster so far, because when Eugene smiled like that, it usually meant someone else was about to have a very bad day. The earlier complaining bandits were now impressed by Eugene's tactics, who had not used them as bait or shields, even though they were former bandits. Plus, they had killed over 100 monsters, but there was no one injured on their side. It seems the knight in black has it all. Naturally, that's when things went wrong. Soon, Eugene and Galpedic notice some mercenaries approaching them, clearly not looking friendly. They notice a familiar face. It was the guy who spoke to Eugene at the Baron's castle earlier. This man was a slave. He had longed to become a knight. However, 1 year ago, after being defeated in battle, from the moment he became a slave in a foreign land, his life was shattered like falling debris. It fell apart completely. He is barely enduring this time of endless despair, but the most terrible and painful thing is that he is serving a foolish and reckless sentence. He couldn't understand why Sir Oleg was planning to ambush the 3rd subjugation squad and kill the Black Knight. However, as Sir Oleg approaches the demonic realm, he is a little taken aback to see a stockade outside. To add to their problems, the subjugation squad noticed them. Sir Oleg's subordinates warned him not to charge at this moment, but he was stubborn and reckless. The slave watches the scene unfold until his life sentence is announced. He was pushed to the front as bait. Sir Oleg orders everyone to charge, and they all begin to rush towards the 3rd subjugation squad. The slave watches the scene with disappointment, knowing that if it were the Black Knight, he wouldn't have used such cowardly methods, and so he begins to contemplate whether he should draw his sword against him or not. Galpedic orders the men to hold formation inside the stockade and to attack on his Eugene's signal. Sir Oleg was about to get closer to the squad when suddenly he heard a booming sound. It was none other than the Wyvern. If there weren't any death threats and lives hanging in the balance, I would say it was a majestic scene in the sky. The Wyvern flew in the middle with the Harpies around him, ready to feast upon the men. The Wyvern begins to puke out flames, giving Sir Oleg and his men no choice but to retreat. Eugene grins as he watches Wyvern, because this was exactly what he had been waiting for. Sir Oleg's subordinates once again tried to convince him that they should retreat, but the man had no intention of doing so. In a move that can only be described as confidently stupid, he grabbed a crossbow and tried to shoot the Wyvern, missing completely, of course. One of his men got targeted by a harpy in the process. To protect him, the slave wields his sword, though he gives the man ample time to grab his weapon quickly while holding them off. The man reveals he has owned ornithophobia, fear of birds. On the other side, Eugene's squad watched the chaos unfold like it was live entertainment. Galpedic decides to spice things up and bring the Wyvern down from the sky. He strikes 3 arrows at once towards the creature, catching its attention successfully. The Harpies instantly launched towards the subjugation squad. But those fools were showered once again with arrows. However, they were outnumbered. Eugene has Galpedic shoot 1 arrow, which was enough to lure the Wyvern. With that, Eugene prepares his spear and throws it towards the giant creature, causing it to fall to the ground. However, it wasn't over, not even close. The Wyvern retaliates instantly, breathing fire and setting the stockade ablaze. Galpedic asks Sirinor to bind that thing like the Harpies. However, it seems the creature had understood their conversation as it began to roar fiercely. Get her. She closes her eyes to focus on the spell. But little did she know that the creature had approached her closer and was about to feast on her. However, Eugene shields her, injuring his shoulder in the process. He pushes a shocked Sirinor to safety and clashes with the Wyvern head-on. The creature swallowed him, just like that. For a moment, everything froze, because there's no coming back from that, right? Wrong. Not for long, though. The Wyvern instantly unleashes its deadly flames in the air to target Eugene. However, the audience soon spots the flame's intensity being lowered and mixed with blood. Then suddenly, the Wyvern's eyes turned black, and its body split apart mid-air, collapsing to the ground in pieces. Silence followed, the kind that hits after something impossible just happens. Seeing that their leader had fallen, the Harpies instantly made a run for it. Fortunately, Sir Eugene was alive. He casually reveals how he threw a sword down the creature's throat and killed it. Thanks to the Wyvern's blood, he wasn't seriously injured. To be precise, he protected himself with black scales when it breathed fire and killed it by throwing the sword he took from the bandits. But what perplexed him the most was how the sword was perfectly fine even after being thrown into the center of the flames. It is an unusual weapon indeed. He contemplates collecting more like this so he can become much stronger. But his attention diverts as cheers erupt around him, calling him out for being the best. Even the former bandits were praising him like crazy. As for Sir Oleg, he feels humiliated and decides to retreat for now and wait for another chance. However, the bandits, who had recently joined the Eugene fan club, were going to teach him a lesson. Eugene interrogated Oleg and came to know that the person who ordered the attack was none other than the Baron. If the Baron continued to deny the facts, Sir Eugene would have made it public. Because if this goes public, it's not just the Palin Guild getting messy, the entire noble society gets dragged into group chat chaos. But Eugene played things out smartly, offering a condition that if the Baron admitted it and negotiated, he would let this matter slide. The Baron folds faster than a cheap lawn chair. He admits everything and throws another noble, Jevon, under the bus like it's a relay race. Classic "I was blinded by greed" excuse. Bro really thought that would sound deep instead of desperate. The Baron would normally have suppressed this with military force, but against a knight who caught a wyvern, he had no other choice. The first conditions Eugene proposed to the Baron were a certificate and a joint petition. It stated, since we have occupied several villages outside the barony of Beogalan, he is to write a certificate recognizing Eugene as the lord of those places, and circulate a joint petition to nearby nobles. The second negotiation was damage compensation, and not the sorry for your loss kind. He takes 80% of the mana stones and resources, Oleg, as ransom, and even absorbs the Baron's mercenaries like he's collecting Pokemon. And yes, that includes Luke, the slave boy. Now this is where it gets interesting. Eugene had become interested in him after he learned that Luke used to live as a knight squire. On their way, he strikes up a conversation with Luke, who reveals he used to live that way a little over 3 years ago. And so Eugene decides to appoint him to take charge of maintaining the armor and horse stock, paying him half a silver coin every week. Upon being questioned, Eugene reveals that he brought Luke with him because he told him about the wyvern's habits at the Baron's castle. Thanks to that, he could prepare an effective strategy. However, he thought it was a trap when he charged in with the Baron's knights. Luke apologizes, but Eugene assures him that he did not draw his sword against him and only aimed at the Harpies. Eugene wants him to follow him in battle. Luke was impressed by the man's noble tactics and vowed to serve him until the day he died. Honestly, better career growth than most internships. However, as usual, another problem awaited them. A messenger comes in with the worst update possible. Robin village is now occupied by bandits. Eugene does not hesitate and orders his men to prepare for battle, to protect the residents and wipe out the bandits immediately. The former bandits were way too energetic and lunged forward, ready to sweep Eugene's enemies away. Nothing screams redemption arc like violently overperforming to impress your boss. The others arrive at the port city of Mofern, and instead of chaos, they're greeted with politeness, which already feels suspicious. The guild master of the Mofern Merchant Guild, Gardy, welcomes Eugene respectfully to his home. He says it is not common for a force of over 40 soldiers to enter the city. The host then drops something interesting. The title Wyvern Slayer might sound heroic, but it's the kind of title that makes people smile at you while quietly planning how not to die around you. But then things take a turn. In this city, bandits aren't just disliked, they're basically public enemy number one, and Gardy wasn't happy to see the former bandits in Eugene's group. Translation? One wrong move, and this entire place could turn into a battlefield real quick. And right on cue, tension spikes. One of the bandits gets triggered because apparently self-control is not part of the job description. Thankfully, Laban steps in like, "Relax, bro. This is not the time to ruin our lives." But the real entertainment starts when Eugene casually mentions becoming a lord. Gardy's brain short-circuits. He clearly did not know this. He now gets by. Arno went to work instead of enjoying the banquet. The moment Gardy realizes who Eugene really is, his entire personality does a full 180. Suddenly, the same man who was cautious is now overly polite, apologizing and smiling like his life depends on it because it kind of does. It's giving customer service mode activated, but with actual survival at stake. Eugene doesn't let it get to his head as he has seen many people react this way. He admits becoming a lord wasn't even part of his plan. Remember, in this world, money talks louder than loyalty. So naturally, Gardy offers support, management help, resources, or whatever Eugene needs, not out of kindness but out of investment. Eugene accepts because even he knows that ruling isn't a solo mission, it's a political game. And just when things seem to settle down, Galpedic raises his drink to toast their victory against the Wyvern, hyping everyone up, reminding them how they wiped out hundreds of harpies without losing a single man. The soldiers cheer, and the room fills with praises for their new lord, along with Miran, of course. Unfortunately for Eugene, he found no red mana stone from the Wyvern. Bro really fought a boss monster and got the loot equivalent of "thanks for participating." Miran knocks out as if she doesn't have a single responsibility in life, which is true. Meanwhile, Eugene is still awake, and just when it seems like the night can't get any worse, he gets a late-night visitor. Delmando. Yes, that Delmando. The same guy who was supposed to manage the village but ran away. Eugene is instantly furious with his shamelessness. Like, "I messed up, but let me act like we're still cool." Delmando, already intimidated and shivering, enters the room. He freaks out even more as Eugene coldly refers to him as cousin. Somehow, that makes it worse. As soon as the doors shut behind them, Delmando instantly begins to butter up the original vampire. Eugene, however, has no intention of chilling out and coldly points out how stragglers have moved in, even though he's interested in inspecting the villagers. Delmando was frightened, and he revealed how he couldn't complete the mission because it took time to recover from his injuries. Because of that, he judged it better to wait for the noble one in Mofern and report then. Eugene sighs, realizing that this man came here knowing he would be reprimanded. He spreads out his anger and questions Delmando about what his specialty is. With tears still gleaming in his eyes, the vampire reveals that he can handle 2 or 3 mercenaries even without the power of the clan. Besides that, he knows how to read and write and speak 4 languages. Apparently, when he was human, he was a mid-level administrative official in the Roman Empire. Man went from a government job to a vampire side character. Career paths are insane. Eugene promises to overlook his sins if he works with him as Eugene's second cousin, who will manage the territory on his behalf. Delmando agrees to take on the role. The Yogin then introduces him to Gardy. As they talk, Gardy suggests Eugene expand his territory a little further within the peninsula where the silver mine resides. This immediately gets Eugene's attention. The scene shifts to Sirinor providing Eugene with hand-drawn aesthetics. That includes the ring and shield she brought for him. She reveals that people think of bats when they hear about vampires, but for an origin, it is obviously a dragon. Sirinor was initially swayed by his kind words, but reminded herself not to. After all, she suffered for over a month without being able to do any research. She plans to pack the byproducts and leave quickly. Before she could leave, Eugene questioned her knowledge of alchemy. Sirinor reveals it to be one of the fundamental disciplines for a mage. After all, being able to handle minerals is a basic requirement for crafting chimeras. Sirinor, who initially planned to flee from here as soon as she could, had now been defeated by her greed after Eugene revealed his plans to get a silver mine. She reveals how she will build a laboratory as soon as she returns to Marin, and so she requests him to entrust the silver refining to her, as a mage is better than a dwarf at separating silver from silver ore. Miran seemed pretty satisfied to see a fellow money enthusiast, but Sirinor believes she is different from the materialistic spirit. After all, it is for the material costs needed for research. Suddenly, she's pitching ideas, planning labs, and basically dropping her resume mid-conversation. It's giving LinkedIn energy but with actual stakes. Eugene agrees to appoint her to that duty and asks her to return to Marin with a few assigned troops. Now we have come to Eugene's next mission, seizing the silver silver mine. Mount Nadir belonged to Duke Bemos, the youngest son of Marquis Archibald, but he died a few years ago. Eugene had already guessed why the Archibald family gave up the silver mine so easily. You probably don't have the capacity to care about it yet. Since the Marquis was ousted, the lords have no justification, and the direct descendants are busy fighting, claiming to be legitimate successors. Bandits who don't know their place occupy the silver mine and impersonate lords. Carlsberg has become a mess in the process. Meanwhile, the surrounding merchants and residents are left exposed to violence, only accumulating losses. But then Sir Eugene appeared. Thanks to him, merchants can travel to and from the village without worry. The villagers are also rejoicing as their livelihoods have been sustained. So, for Eugene, who has even received certificates and a joint petition from the nobles of the peninsula, wouldn't there be no issue even if he claimed ownership of the silver mine? That's what Gardy thought. He also promised to provide Eugene the support needed for development and maintenance, along with a provision merchant for his expedition if he obtains the silver mine. In return, he asks Eugene to continue trading with him while he is active in the peninsula. As Eugene and his squad traveled through the city towards their expedition, they were greeted by the residents in a wholesome manner. Galpedic lectures the former bandits about the qualifications of becoming a lord. One needs power, fame, influence, and lineage, and his master has them all. He is certain Eugene will be surprised when he regains his memories. This reminds Eugene of how there were people in his memory that flashed by when the second tattoo disappeared. He wonders who they were. Since he did not feel any negative emotions, there were certain enemies. There could be his clan or maybe other origins. Whatever it is right now, he needs to prepare to oppose the Central Church and the Holy Knights. To do that, he must stockpile all forms of resources, including military force and troops. Seeing that they are reaching Mount Nadir closer, he orders scouts to be sent out and Anton volunteers. They will subjugate the bandits occupying the silver mine and take over. That was the plan. He knows he has to be careful because if he is killed again, he won't get the chance to find his memories. As it starts raining, the group set up camp. Eugene and Galpedic contemplate what happened to the former bandit, Anton. Galpedic wonders if you betrayed them or might have been captured. Miran tells Eugene and Galpedic about the bandit group occupying the silver mine. Apparently they were called Valmont and the Hounds. There were about 50 of them, and the leader, Valmont, was originally a mercenary captain. Valmont killed the noble who hired him and rallied mercenaries and robbers. He is skilled with traps, so there will be many snares around the silver mine. Eugene says they have waited long enough and should go find Anton. Miran warns Eugene that entry will be more difficult than usual. However, Eugene reminds him of how the former bandit wasn't treacherous. Miran agrees, remembering how, after pledging loyalty, the man tried hard to be recognized by their leader. Eugene planned to go along with Galpedic, telling the rest to keep a strict watch here and dig proper drainage trenches. Eugene was soft when it came to his mercenaries. Even if they are weak, he wants to remember them and make the group that killed them pay the same price. The scene shifts to hell by Galpedic and Eugene, his personal hell. Apparently, he was one of Valmont's men. They intimidate him and question him about their missing scout. They soon entered the mine, unleashed a raid on the mercenaries. While some managed to escape and close the gate, the others weren't so lucky. They couldn't believe what the monster was. However, the gate wasn't strong enough to protect them. To their surprise, it was not a monster. Instead, they were just two ordinary humans. Underestimating them, Valmont orders his men to kill them. Medium finally ends up being useful, unleashing its water magic towards the fire lamps. It was now dark in the cave. Not for the vampires, though. Eugene had no plan to leave them alive, as these are the guys who killed his mercenaries. And so chaos erupts, and in the darkness, Eugene and Galpedic move like executioners. However, Eugene leaves the leader alive, saying he still has things to ask. Gardy was most amused to hear the news of Valmont being instigated by Sir Andre. He excitedly tells Eugene that if this goes well, he could grasp not just the silver mine, but hegemony over the peninsula. He explains that Sir Andre is Marquis Archibald's nephew-in-law and was the first to betray him. Even his direct lineage is busy checking on each other, each backed by a lord. But the important thing here is that the noble Sir Andre serves Duke Gabriel. He is Archibald's eldest son. This means that Sir Andre couldn't have done such a thing alone. Ugh, a noble, again. At this point, nobles in this story are either useless, greedy, or actively making things worse. There is no in-between. Gardy promises to stand by him if he steps forward. He did not want to miss a knight with the qualities of a conqueror and suggested that he make a decision quickly. Eugene gives it some time to think and agrees, telling him to recruit the troops. Gardy watches Eugene and his his group march off to war like a proud investor watching his high-risk, high-return startup. Beside him, another man looks genuinely confused and asks the real question: why are seasoned mercenaries and actual knights following some outsider like Eugene? Galpedic explains that the mercenaries gathered because of their size, strength, and the silver mine. And the knights flocked to him because, having no ties to the peninsula, they figured he was free from any political baggage. Half the knights who volunteered without pay joined Eugene's banner for the exact reason. If the Lord deserves freedom from liability, the knights are too. But here's the deal: Galpedic thinks he's the smartest man in the room. He was looking forward to getting their hands on a demonic realm or two. He believes even if Eugene doesn't pacify the peninsula, it is still a highly profitable venture. Plus, Sir Eugene is completely clueless when it comes to territory management or politics. In his mind, this is perfect. While Eugene and the knights do all the dangerous work, Galpedic plans to quietly funnel all the profits into Mercenaries like a medieval tax evasion speedrun. Honestly, bro thought he was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. But that will not last for long. Eugene's administrator soon requests an audience with him. He expects some inexperienced kid he can manipulate in 5 minutes. But the moment Delmando sits down and pulls out a fully detailed contract demanding a castle for Eugene, Galpedic's soul leaves his body for a second. This isn't a negotiation anymore, it's a financial ambush. It's like he is an administrator with over 30 years of experience, seeing right through them and making his demands. He wonders how to counter the situation, considering this will cost way more than they planned. Delmando makes sense of his expression and decides to leave, saying that Mercenaries isn't the only place they can liquidate their silver after all. That line? Pure psychological warfare. This is when Galpedic's survival instincts wake up, and he tries his best not to let go of the young administrator. In truth, Delmando has one more specialty he has not mentioned to Eugene, a field where he has no rivals now that he is part of the kin of the night and possesses their racial traits, and that is cunning. This is why he can see right through Galpedic's pathetic little schemes. He explains to the dumb fat man that Sir Eugene's ambitions do not end at merely becoming a lord. He begins to play around with his words, saying he might become a Grand Lord of the Empire or a Marquis. He grins, saying he can go even higher, like becoming a king. On the other hand, the knights had captured the bandits' hideout in a flash. The knights told Eugene how they subdued the bandits without even drawing their swords. The bandits instantly began to beg Eugene for mercy, requesting not to eat them. Upon questioning, they revealed they heard rumors in a nearby pub saying the Black Knight will tear you apart and eat you alive if he catches you. Abandon them. The knights, who had been boasting of their reputation, became awkward as they realized that the bandits had surrendered because they were terrified of Eugene. This means their contribution is basically non-existent. But, with Miran's insistence, he praises the unpaid knights for their bravery. They soon reach the outskirts of the territory of Marquis Archibald. Apparently, half of Carlsberg belongs to the family. Galpedic's advisor informs Eugene that they have to travel for 3 more days to reach their final destination, which is Duke Gabriel's territory, and pass through 2 other territories for that. One of those is the territory of the eldest daughter of the Archibald family, Lady Asendra. By tradition, she is the official heir to the Archibald family. While she holds the legitimacy, Duke Gabriel currently possesses the strongest military force. Eugene begins to contemplate deeply. He knows this is a world where bloodline and status are absolute power. Using that as an excuse to condemn a direct descendant of the Marquis family won't be easy. When soldiers are captured as slaves on the battlefield, the reality of this world is that knights and nobles are set free simply by paying a ransom. He decides to meet with Lady Asendra himself and orders the sending of an envoy. The news soon reached Lady Asendra, and she decided to let him in. But her subordinate cautions her that he might be acting under Duke Gabriel's orders. He reveals that Sir Eugene's envoy requested the meeting and stated he has a force of about 100 men. He said there were at least 7 to 10 knights as well, and that is by no means a force to be taken lightly. Asendra smirks, saying this is exactly why she will tell him to come in alone. No army, no backup. Just him, after all. She also wants to see just what kind of bold character he is. And if he refuses, tell him to get lost. Where the truth ends and the lies begin, Lady Asendra will judge that herself. It turns out Eugene was much younger and prettier than she had expected. Unlike the rumors she has heard about him. Like the one where he eats people or the stories about him catching a wyvern. Eugene becomes skeptical and admits that he did catch a wyvern. But he understands that this is not why she agreed to this meeting. Asendra was taken aback by his bluntness that bursts into laughter. She instantly gets to the point and asks why he wanted to meet her. Eugene reveals that he has a request and a proposal for her. Asendra questions if he wants her to recognize his ownership of the villages he occupied. When he affirms, Asendra's face turns dark as she angrily questions if he is trying to pick up a fight with her right now. Eugene says he captured Valmont, the bandit leader who was occupying the silver mine, alive. He is a murderer who killed the noble who hired him. He confessed he was instigated by a knight named Andre and claimed he was promised a pardon and even knighthood if he occupied the silver mine. then points out how Andre is a knight under Duke Gabriel. Asendra remains stunned. According to Eugene's proposal, if he hands Valmont over to her, it would be of great help in her bid to become the Marquis. In exchange, he asked her to fully recognize him as a lord. And just like that, the entire political board flips. Asendra's demeanor instantly turns polite, and she agrees to the deal, also promising to give him some silver coins. She says she had initially thought he was provoking her by asking to recognize his land ownership, with the succession issue being such a mess right now. She says she can become the Marquis whenever she wants it, but the royal family has their eyes on the peninsula, making things complicated. No matter how much of a royal family they are, they can't just do whatever they want with powerful nobles or cities. In Carlsberg, Gabriel became their target of appeasement. If things go well, the king might grant him a title or something. If that happens, even if Asendra becomes Marquis, she will only have half the power, and it would be like having a royal dagger pointed at her throat. She asserts that issues of the peninsula should be resolved by the people of the peninsula, and the Archibald family must stand at the center of it. Out of a sense of duty, she is trying to embrace her brother, but he is too greedy. Eugene's ears instantly perk up as she reveals how her family owns a demonic realm they want to subjugate quickly. But the problem is that the territory of her fourth sibling, Edric, is blocking the way to the demonic realm. He demanded the pair toll per person in the subjugation squad to pass through his land. Edric is hinting that anyone can inherit the title, but he is not picking any sides in order not to make any enemies. Apparently, the toll is 10 silver coins per person. She calls her brother a bad boy, saying she had doted on him when he was little. Understand. Does your Eugene offer to subjugate the tension for her? Asendra declines, saying that his forces alone number over 100. Unless he is saying something crazy like he will enter the dungeon alone. A stunning silence fills the room as Eugene proposes exactly that. Apparently, there were rumors about hugging being crazy as well. Asendra could see why now. The scene shifts to Eugene and his group standing opposite the bridge of Duke Gabriel's and Duke Edric's territories. Galpedic cautions the men not to cross the bridge, or he will smash their skulls. He and the troops were to wait here till Eugene returns. Eugene begins to inspect the emotional state of his knights. Though the mercenary captains were not a problem, he does see a few unpaid knights angry. If it were up to his vampire aura, he would beat them all into submission. But even lords of small lands hid their true intentions. Eugene swallows his irritation and expresses his gratitude for following him. He soothes them by saying that it is not that they are not up to his standards. He then distributes 50 silver coins each, saying they are a gesture of sincerity from Lady Asendra and himself. It was all the silver he had received. He had decided to distribute it all amongst the volunteers, as they were useful. He then has them monitor the situation here for 3 or 4 days, immediately uplifting their spirits. Turns out money really does fix everything. Who knew? The permit soon arrives, and Eugene is free to cross the enemy's territories. Asendra's subordinate continuously tries to warn him, but gives up in the end. He coldly says he will wait no more than 3 days, but it was fine with Eugene and off he goes. Duke Edric believes his reputation in Carlsberg is a pleasant one, always looking out for his subordinates. But if he had one flaw, it would be his lack of luck with family. He's been stuck in a family group chat from hell for years, getting squeezed between his power-hungry siblings Asendra and Gabriel. Since he will be a lord regardless of who inherits the title, he thought just enduring it would be enough. That was definitely the plan until yet another crisis arrived. And it is all because of a strange knight who showed up out of nowhere, claiming he would subjugate the filthy monsters of the dungeon himself. Edric tries to divert the topic, but Eugene is not taking the hint. Eugene says he would like Edric to provide him with monster dismantlers and porters. Edric knows that no matter how skilled the knight is, he will just end up dead if he enters the demonic realm alone. Because no sane person plans logistics for a suicide mission thoroughly, and that's when paranoia kicks in. A trap. What if this is Asendra's plan? Send in a crazy knight, let him die, then use his death as political leverage. Honestly, it does sound like something nobles would do. The entire system runs on manipulation and plausible deniability. Gabriel had told him not to let anyone into the demonic realm until the succession issue was resolved, but he knew he could not block his sister indefinitely. But he is in the clear if this knight dies inside the demonic realm and not on his land. And so he agrees to strike a deal with Eugene, promising not to hold back on his support. He also asks Eugene to write a letter to his sister and let her know how he was treated at his castle. Edric literally rushes him toward the dungeon entrance like, "Yep, good luck, don't come back." Though Eugene was appreciating their support, Miran wondered why they were laughing and acting like crazy. Nothing screams suspicious like people wishing you luck while low-key planning your funeral. All Edric wanted was for Eugene to die in the demonic realm and never come back. Eugene makes his way inside the dungeon, promising to give a signal from the inside within 3 days. He was all set, as Lady Asendra had given him plenty of information on the dungeon. He tells the workers to wait to come in and work once the subjugation is finished. He reminds them to open the door when they hear 3 knocks. He even accepts food and water from Edrike, but not because he needs it, it's just for appearances. Because let's not forget, people are already questioning if he eats humans. The PR team is struggling. In truth, he has no desire to swallow the blood of humans, nor that of low-rank monsters. All he seeks is the blood of high-ranking monsters and red mana stones, only premium content. His abilities and power have advanced far beyond the level they were at when Eugene first entered the dungeon in Tiwin territory. Eugene still does not know what stage his transformation is or where his limits lie. Miran watches Eugene embrace his vampire self, knowing this is about to get wild. One look at Eugene and the monsters become intimidated. However, they had no place to run as Eugene began to eliminate them all effortlessly. No struggle, no tension, just clean, brutal efficiency. Miran was so stunned that it couldn't even see the master's movements. All it could do was catch up with him. Some time passed by, and Eugene even lost count of the number of monsters he had subdued. Now it was time for what he really came for. He comes across a corpse with head. The only clue is a bite mark the size of a large predator's teeth. If it is a beast like that, there is a high chance it possesses a red mana stone. As Eugene makes his way forward, he sees that high up there are a lot of small creatures screeching at him as if he were prey. It's funny considering they have no idea who they are dealing with. These monstrous bat-like creatures instantly began to lunge towards Eugene. He obviously wasn't going to stand there like an idiot, and he instantly activated his claws. He even uses his sword to kill them off. Though these were not high-ranking creatures, they never stopped being a nuisance like ads you cannot skip. He decides not to waste his time here anymore and rushes in the opposite direction. His aim was to pressure them with fear and cut them down all at once. However, he watches as the bat-like creatures explode simultaneously. Blood splatters across the walls, dripping from above, turning the entire space into something straight out of a nightmare. Even Eugene was shocked by what he had just done. Bro really unlocked a new ability mid-run like it's a hidden achievement, making them explode with just fear alone. But he sees that one is still left. It was a high-ranking monster, which means this is where things actually begin. Without warning, the high-ranking monster suddenly lunges towards Eugene, ready to pounce on him, but Eugene barely dodges in time, his vampire instincts kicking in like a built-in cheat code. Still, even he looks surprised because something is off. He realizes that the monster's form has changed. 1 second, it's a bat. The next, it's crawling out of blood like a horror movie that wouldn't pass censorship today. Tendrils sprout from its head, its gaze locked onto Eugene with pure murderous intent. From a pool of blood, it goes for Eugene again. However, our guy has his sword already prepared. As he strikes the creature, it changes its appearance as well as its pattern once again. It had now turned into a snake-like creature. Its constant change of personalities was making it hard for Eugene to deal with. Bro really said, "Why pick one form when I can be all of them?" Suddenly, the creature wrapped itself around Eugene, trapping him. And yeah, that's not something you see often. However, Eugene uses his crimson energy to push the creature away. The creature was so taken by surprise that it returned to its original form. Furious, it then blows out a blue ball of energy, making Eugene smile. He was glad the creature was attacking with everything it had, as that way he wouldn't feel like he was doing this for nothing. Imagine grinding through mobs for hours and then finally reaching a boss that does not die in one hit. That's where we're at. He counters instantly, his crimson energy colliding head-on with the blue attack. It was enough to overpower the creature, through whom the crimson power goes tearing, killing it on the spot. Miran is thriving, laughing like she just watched the best live stream ever. She hands him the scarlet mana crystal, and Eugene doesn't hesitate to swallow and absorb the ability instantly. It took some time, but he does so successfully and starts flexing his new powers. He can now detect what used to be his blind spots as well. But then he notices something strange. Weird energy, weird movements, and a strange blend of dark auras are floating deeper inside the dungeon. And the moment he senses it, his entire expression shifts. Eugene goes deeper. Of course he does. Miran tries to stop him, pointing out the obvious. "You got the crystal. Mission successful. Let's leave before something kills us." Logical but completely ignored by the vampire. Eugene does not know what it is, but it is something that should not exist in this world as here, that is for sure. He goes deeper and deeper into the dungeon, and soon comes across the strongest monster on the surface, the twin-headed ogre. Miran instantly panics as it sees the undead creatures that had been resurrected with magic. Because yeah, this just escalated from dangerous to absolutely not worth it. But Eugene, he doesn't hesitate. He charges in like he didn't just unlock new powers 5 minutes ago and is already testing them on nightmare difficulty. However, the ogre takes him by surprise. Eugene barely manages to escape. He then tries to trap the ogre with his crimson streaks of energy. However, he remains astonished to see that rather than being tortured, he was laughing. It breaks free from his power as if it were nothing. nothing. The ogre effortlessly picks Eugene by his face as if he were a light feather and slams him onto the floor. As he saw the ogre preparing his fist, all he could think of was dying and his unfinished revenge. The undead watched in amusement as it was beat the hell out of Eugene. The scarlet mana crystal showed Eugene that the people in the memories were vampires. Their appearances were still blurry, and so he knew this wasn't enough. If he stops here, both the revenge and the truth of his past will forever be out of his reach. Basically, bro unlocked a teaser trailer for his own life, and now he needs the full series. So even after getting bodied by a literal undead raid boss, Eugene gets back up, ready to fight again. Miran lets out a deep sigh of relief, as it was worried over who would make its golden castle if Eugene died. Priorities completely valid. Eugene, on the other hand, locks onto the twin-headed ogre again and unleashes his crimson tendrils, trying to bind it. But that plan flops instantly. Miran urgently warns him that you can't intimidate something that's already dead inside. It's like arguing with someone on Reddit. Eugene ignores the warnings and continues to dodge the ogre's charges, unable to find an opening. And so Eugene is forced to be in a defensive position, having no time to attack. He eventually manages to transform his great sword and hurls it with everything he's got. However, the monster effortlessly dodges. Instead, the sword passes through him and strikes a sigil door, and that's when everything changes. The ogre lets out a fearsome roar and is about to attack Eugene once again. Meanwhile, in the back, the purple archway had now lit up. Suddenly, the ogre freezes in his tracks. It is then that Eugene realizes something. Ignoring the ogre, he instantly makes a rush towards the purple archway. There, he finds a dark magic paladin. It had been injured by the sword he had thrown before at the ogre. In order to save himself, the paladin instantly begins to chant a powerful spell that is filled with malevolent purple energy. It is at this moment that Eugene remembers how Galpedic warned him that if he ever comes across a mage, he should kill them before they can cast a spell. That is exactly what he does and wields his sword at the man, killing him instantly. Eugene watches the ogre collapse into the ground at the same time. It was just as he had expected. The mage had been controlling the undead. He then notices the mage's black magic tool and he frowns. Archibald's subordinate sent in a dark mage to the dungeon, but he assumes it wasn't his individual doing since not just anyone can come in here. He is aware that the Kingdom's Central Church has banned the resurrection of dead monsters. If the royal family were to find out about this, they might use it against Asendra. He decides to look into this and find out who was behind it all. And so, finally done with this mission, he signals with 3 knocks on the dungeon door. Edric sees Eugene casually standing there with over 300 monster corpses like he just finished a side quest and overachieved for no reason. At this point, Edric's brain just stops working, because this wasn't supposed to happen. Eugene was supposed to go in and never come back. Instead, he came back stronger. Edric was sweating profusely as he couldn't believe that this man had managed to pull off something that was crazy. Even his elder brother won't be able to say anything against this man. It is now that his stupid brain has come to process that his sister didn't send this knight for her schemes. She has managed to break the balance of power and intends to end this fight. For some reason, he wasn't displeased by it and agreed with Eugene's request. In fact, he feels relieved. The fierce political fight within the family is finally over, thanks to this knight. He doesn't have to choose sides in the family group chat. Finally, the scene shifts to Asendra holding a banquet for the knights to celebrate their victory. She was happier than usual because her men had managed to bring Gabriel's knights as captives. Apparently, those knights had started a fight, provoking them out of nowhere, and so Galpedic suggested a 3v3 without killing. Asendra then spots Eugene, who wasn't eating anything but was just sitting quietly. Pretty weird for the main character of the banquet. Eugene was deep in thought. Edric didn't seem to know anything about the mage, which leaves only Sir Gabriel and Asendra. But before he jumps to conclusions, Asendra approaches him, thanking him properly, and during their conversation, Eugene casually gathers more information. That is when he hears about Ella Ray, and more importantly, the 2 strange mages always with her. She says she doesn't know what faction they're from, but they are master and disciple, on whom Ella Ray is really dependent. Plus, Ella has always been loyal to Gabriel from the start. Now all the clues are coming together. He has Asendra tell Gabriel and Ella that the mage in the dungeon is dead. If they don't show any reaction, she should move on to the Valmont subject. Asendra's face turns pale with shock, and she has Eugene spill the lore. Asendra finds out everything her siblings have been doing and immediately chooses violence. No hesitation, no discussion, just we ride at dawn. Honestly, queen behavior. The scene shifts to the Archibald's knights all gathering in one place after Asendra's summons. They have been looking forward to the heir taking the marquee position once and for all. They were ecstatic to see the Archibald house rise once again. Asendra addresses the crowd gallantly, while the knights couldn't help but take note of Eugene, the man who is said to have raided the Garinsa dungeon on his own. One of of the knights jokes that he might just be Asendra's lover. They quit their talking as Asendra began her speech. She reveals to the knights how Gabriel is protecting Andre, who was behind the noble killer Valmont and tried to take Vemos mines. She asks them all for their support to put an end to the chaos, but gives a firm warning that those who turn their heads will be judged alongside those who have trampled upon honor. The knights were instantly hyped and cheered in unison. Just then, Edike makes his entry, trying to butter up his sister. The knights overhear the conversation and are surprised to hear about Eugene's achievements so far and decide it won't be a bad idea to get close to him. If Lady Asendra takes on the Marquis's title, it is clear that Sir Eugene will be standing beside her. While Miran starts babbling in his ear about his growing influence, Eugene's mind is elsewhere. To him, what is important right now is that Asendra become Marquis. That way, the deal will be complete. Meanwhile, Gabriel is having the worst week of his life. Plans are failing. Minds lost. Dungeon cleared. Sister marching toward him with an army. His evil schemes? Flopping harder than a bad stock investment. He's panicking. Elara's panicking. Everyone's panicking. But Andre? Oh, Andre's still delusional. He motivates Gabriel that this is the sole opportunity to escape the shadow of Lady Asendra. Sir, your entire empire is collapsing and you're talking about opportunities. This is not a TED Talk. Elara agrees, suggesting he let that loose and Asendra's army back off, determined to back his only true brother, the Marquis. Wow, brother issues much? Meanwhile, the second mage makes his way to the dungeon. However, his plans to retrieve his master fail as the opponent army makes their way in. Galpedic is certain he will be here and give orders to kill him as soon as they see him, or he will cast a spell. The second mage instantly hides and begins chanting a powerful spell. Galpedic hears him in an instant thanks to his new vampire ears. But it might be too late, as the mage had already cast the spell. A massive explosion rips through the scene, because of course it does. And just like that, everything is about to get a whole lot worse. Malv returns to Gabriel's mansion. He reports how the secret passage into the castle was left unguarded, due to which he was fortunately able to make it here. He also discovered how Lady Asendra was able to reach the main castle so quickly. Apparently, the soldiers at the border surrendered immediately, claiming they were part of the same Archibald family. Family loyalty suddenly appeared the moment fighting became involved. What a coincidence. This infuriates Gabriel, and he then questions him about the dungeon. Malv hesitatingly reveals how he was unable to enter it because the Duke Edrike had stationed troops at the entrance of the demonic realm. He was adamant that no one can enter or leave without Lady Asendra's explicit permission. He further reveals how the lady did not occupy every village as she invaded. Instead, she sent a portion of her troops to hunt a monster in the rodent forest. Rumor has it that it is a terrifying creature no one has ever witnessed before. People are saying it is at least a high-ranking monster and an undead one at that. Nothing says good morning quite like hearing an unknown undead abomination is roaming the countryside. The creature instantly catches the attention of the other three. Gabriel becomes evidently anxious. He knows if that is true, Lady Asendra is not the only problem. Mulv reveals how one needs a holy knight to take down the undead. However, ever since the bishop fled to the royal capital, holy knights have been impossible to find in this region. The one time everyone actually needs customer support from the church has already left the chat. Gabriel tells Mulv to inform the nobles within the castles about this development immediately, and he will also send an envoy to his sister. The situation is dire, so they should prioritize the safety of the peninsula over a family favorite. Mulv was impressed by Gabriel's decision, believing he is the true heir, thinking of the Marquisate over his own power. Little did he know that Gabriel had a darker, more cunning scheme being planned. To him, the goddess of victory seemed to be on his side. He believes that when the undead go on a rampage, her army on the front lines will be sacrificed and resentment towards his sister will fester. Gabriel just needs to step in at the right moment and have Andre slay the beast. He's done with these archaic traditions and wants to usher in a new era as soon as possible. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Eugene fights off a griffin monster. With his vampire senses activated, he stabs the griffin mercilessly. Miran questions why he would catch a griffin, especially when there is zero profit. Eugene simply explains that it helps Asendra's legitimacy in her bid for the title. Plus, he needs to test his new abilities as well. Miran now gets it. Things will get exciting now because it remembers how Eugene said he can transform into a monster if he eats its blood and mana stones. He eagerly waits for Eugene to turn into a griffin now. However, Eugene was still figuring it out, and he bit into the griffin with an ecstatic Miran awaiting his transformation. But to Miran's shock, Eugene was surrounded by a halo instead. Even Eugene seemed to be shocked. Miran was shocked to see that that it had evolved. Eugene remains dumbfounded, wondering why. Was it the water spirit that had a glow-up instead? Miran excitedly explains how spirits can evolve alongside the one they have formed a contract with. It seems Eugene leveled up after eating that griffin. Eugene seemed to doubt the fact that the water spirit went through an evolution, considering it got smaller. Miran explains that Eugene is a tiny squirt compared to his vassals, but he is way stronger. Eugene was internally furious by the mocking comment and squeezed it tight. Meanwhile, 2 days had passed since Lady Asendra and her knights had stationed themselves outside. Gabriel seemed to be clearly stalling for time, and the nobles were getting restless about the cost of the mercenaries. Her subordinates suggested they launch a siege. Since their forces outnumbered them 3 to 1, they have a chance of winning. Plus, with reinforcements, they have a total of 1,000 men compared to their 300 men. Asendra, however, states that it is not time yet. The knight questions if it is because she is waiting for Sir Eugene. He politely says that he will always trust and follow his lady's decisions, but he cannot understand why she is valuing the words of an outsider so much. Asendra firmly explains that their original plan was to secure the loyalty of every village before entering the castle. The knight adds that they did not do it because in the first 3 villages they visited, the administrators, troops, and supplies had already been moved to the main castle. Therefore, they assumed the other villages were the same. Once they realized Duke Gabriel was preparing for a siege, they came straight here. Asendra agrees, stating that her brother hoarded resources to prepare for a long stay, and as a result, public security in the villages plummeted. The residents, exposed to the threat of monsters like griffins, were terrified and begged them for mercy. Therefore, there was no need for them to invade and add to their fear. More importantly, those are the people who will be her subjects once she becomes the Marquise. She then reveals shocking information, saying that Sir Eugene went to hunt the griffin, knowing exactly that. Therefore, he is a true knight who understands honor. She agrees it is hard to trust an outsider like him, who doesn't intend to stay under her shadow. She says it is not him that she trusts, but the achievements and chivalry he has displayed on this peninsula. And so she tells the knight to trust her and wait a little longer. And so the knight respectfully agrees to do so. Just then, an announcement is made. An informant from Duke Gabriel's side reveals how he brought a message to Lady Asendra and the nobles. Apparently, it is a grave declaration concerning the very survival of the Marquisate. Asendra's knights laughed, thinking it was a declaration of surrender. But to the informant's shock, he revealed how an undead monster that normal humans cannot kill has appeared in the forest. They intended to send a subjugation squad to deal with it, but Lady Asendra has blocked their path with her army. Asendra was furious by the hypocrisy of her brother. Gabriel has officially upgraded from annoying sibling to active migraine. Gabriel smirks as he watches the informant do a TED talk on how they should turn the blades pointed at each other towards the undead and seek peace and prosperity together. Everything seemed to be going according to his plan. Asendra's knights are reminded of how Duke Edrike and Eugene went to hunt the monsters, but they have heard how they went to catch the griffin, not the undead. A man also confirmed how his scouts reported that the Duke himself was sending warnings to each village. They all then turned towards Asendra, wondering if she kept them tied down knowing all this. They all begin to question the lady to explain herself. Asendra's demeanor darkens as her brother had finally crossed the line. The informant continues to speak, saying that the Duke is saying that since the confusion continues due to their father's past errors, as is his duty, he will give his all to correct their family's mistake and suppress the chaos of the peninsula. Basically, the informant continues to speak praises of Gabriel as the true Archibald, all in order to brainwash Lady Asendra's knights. And it seemed to be working, as they began to wonder if the Duke is not such a bad person after all. Just before the tide could turn, Asendra silences them all and tells them to maintain their formation and wait until she gives the order. This shocks everyone, but just then they hear a large presence coming. They turned their heads in shock as they spotted the undead. This was the last straw for her knights. As of now, they truly believe that the lady deceived them. As for Gabriel, he couldn't understand why an undead was appearing out of nowhere in this situation. While it is not a bad thing for him, it is pretty surprising. However, he becomes astounded as he sees Galpedic carrying the thing. It tells the others to get out of the way and instantly throws the gigantic creature on the ground, telling them not to be scared as it is just a soggy pile of corpse water. For Galpedic, he just had to carry an unnecessarily heavy burden, but fortunately, he managed to withstand the mage's attack with it. Asendra questions Eugene, but in that moment, he appears apologizing for being a bit too late. However, he says it might have been faster if he had taken the carriage. He was dragging the griffin with him and suggested that they begin as planned. Asendra smiles and is satisfied and addresses her brother, saying she knows he is watching. He then reveals for all to hear that the wicked undead that appeared in the state was slain by Eugene, who supports her. She then exposes how the undead ogre was resurrected by some mage using evil power, and she has obtained the heads of those mages along with their magic journal. She questions if he isn't curious whose name is is mentioned inside. Gabriel suddenly realizes the PowerPoint presentation is about him. Gabriel's face drains of color as he recognizes the book Elera's message had. Now he had fallen into his own trap. Before arriving at the castle, Asendra had Edric circulate warnings to each village. It was a warning that a terrifying undead creature had appeared. Meanwhile, Sir Eugene disposed of the griffin for the sake of the villagers her brother had abandoned. Since Gabriel heard that information, he must have stepped forward so confidently, claiming he knew how to defeat the undead. And that is clear evidence that he is involved with those mages. Asendra addresses yet again that if her brother wishes, she will reveal it all right here. Gabriel's sister stops him, warning him that it will all be over if they surrender, and that they should hold out. She questions if there is not a way to make that undead move again. However, he instantly yells that he surrenders as his sister warns that anyone associated with the mage who created such a wicked monster is malicious. He also swears to open the castle gates immediately. Later, Asendra praises their decision to surrender, saying it was a wise choice. If they had denied it even slightly, the knights in the castle would have revolted first. Asendra turns to Eugene and questions who he believes should be held responsible for this. Eugene calmly states that the person who tried to drive a wedge between the Archibald kin and satisfy their own greed should pay. He was obviously talking about Sir Andre. Eugene's demeanor turns dark as he questions who it was that coveted Duke Bemo's mine and instigated a noble's murder, bringing in wicked mages, Lady Elera or Gabrielle. Both siblings flinch in shock. Asendra steps up, saying that Eugene is being a bit too harsh and that there is no way her siblings would commit such heinous acts. She is absolutely not helping him dig the grave deeper. Absolutely not. Elera begins to tremble from head to toe. At last, she betrays her husband and claims herself to be innocent. Andre was obviously heartbroken as he learned in the most cruel way that a place where rank and blood come first and one would even discard their partner just to survive. This is the true face of the so-called great nobility. Eugene also learns from this that there is no need to offer any loyalty to the Archibalds. Cooperating when necessary is enough. Galpedic believes that now that Gabriel has been stripped of his position and his assets have been seized, the peninsula should quiet down. He then questions Eugene. Why didn't he accept the official title from the lady? Eugene answers that he would then have an obligation to answer whenever the Archibald. He needed to be recognized as a lord, so he accepted the reward, but there was one condition. He was told to take Gabriel's eldest daughter, Selena Archibald. Since it is a hassle for Eugene, he tells Galpedic to take her as his squire. Congratulations, Galpedic. You have been promoted to babysitter. As for Selena, she was furious to be sold off to these sinister scumbags. However, she must endure it for her father's sake. She was confident enough to stand against Galpedic. She then boldly claims that she wishes to broaden her horizons by seeing the skills of the man she will serve as master, basically picking a fight with him. Selena was known as the greatest sword prodigy in Archibald history, and she wants to judge his level personally. Galpedic just got assigned a teenager whose hobbies include swordsmanship, arrogance, and starting problems. Good luck. The scene shifts to Galpedic, his brow furrowed with doubt, questioning aloud if it feels right to transport them like this. By them, he meant the undead and Selena, both now lying side by side in the dim carriage, the air heavy with unease as the wheels began to turn. Nothing says safe travel arrangements like seating a noble teenager beside a giant undead corpse. The battle with Selena had ended more quickly than Galpedic had imagined, his searing gaze alone causing her to collapse in defeat, leaving a bitter taste of surprise on his tongue. Restless, Galpedic turns to Eugene, voice tinged with uncertainty, challenging whether Asendra truly permitted him to take control. Eugene, face calm but voice proud, affirms it, hinting at the rare trust between them, a bond Galpedic both respects and resents. Galpedic smiles at that and says he has no other choice now. Galpedic questions Romari if it wouldn't be better to burn the undead right now, especially considering it was moving on its own even after it died. Romari wonders if it is just post-mortem spasms from being carried on someone's back. She says the magic tool has been destroyed, so it should be fine. Plus, why would you burn such a precious research subject? Apparently, she had dragged them down because time is a resource and she cannot afford to waste this opportunity. Galpedic complains that since she insisted on taking the undead, people mistook her for a dark mage. It only worked out since they convinced them. Romari then asks Eugene the true identity of those mages impersonating the Blood Shadow School, but Eugene calmly reveals that they're dead, so they cannot answer. Romari also seemed unfazed and was just glad Eugene is safe. Romari has reached the stage of friendship where "I killed them" barely qualifies as surprising news. As for Eugene, he praises the good equipment he had, reveals how it appears through stone pillars, and it remained unscathed even by the Wyvern's fire. It would be great to obtain more. Galpedic is reminded of the night tournament hosted by Count Winslow. If you win there, you get the highest grade of equipment. This instantly catches Eugene's ears, and he becomes interested. Galpedic elaborates that the event is held every 4 years, and it just so happens to be held this year. The Winslow family branched off from the original royal bloodline. line. Their territory is vast, and their power is so immense that even the king cannot touch them. If one wins, they earn equipment, gold, and maybe even a title. In that case, Eugene decides to stop by the territory and head straight for Marin, but to Galpedic's disappointment. Eugene orders him to stay here, play the role of lord for him, and protect Romari and the territory while he and Luke go. He says he needs to show Lady Asendra that he has entrusted her niece to a confidant he trusts enough to leave his entire territory too. But Galpedic really had no interest in being a glorified babysitter. Eugene also says it is hard to fully trust Delmando. He tells the man to subjugate a demonic realm belonging to House Archibald if he gets bored. Galpedic was not happy enough to stay and questions where the free knights and the mercenaries are. Eugene reveals how he had the 7 knights officially knighted by Asendra and included them in the expedition. Once it is over, he will station those knights who are locals in his territory. Galpedic reminds Eugene that the first payday for the Wyvern mercenaries is in 2 days, and so, coincidentally, the timing worked out like that. Asendra needs the troops, and Eugene is saving money, so it is a win-win for both of them. Eugene returns to Palin Guild's vice manager. The woman was beyond shocked to hear about his achievements. Apparently, this guy has managed to become an independent lord, recognized by the Marquis of Carlsberg. He owns a silver mine and has 7 knights under his command now. She couldn't believe that arrogant Wyvern Guild is building a castle and supporting mine development for this guy. Plus, they even paid the mercenaries wages on his behalf. Wyvern must have seen greater potential in Eugene and invested accordingly. She knew a power this strong is rare, even among the lords near Marin. But when Eugene brings the topic of the contract being over since the subjugation was his success, she suggests the idea of extending it. Eugene says he will terminate the existing contract but is willing to sign a new one. The woman instantly agrees, promising to serve him with conditions that won't fall behind modern standards. Eugene was a bit surprised by her changed attitude, as she was completely different from when they first met. He agrees to read the new contract within 3 or 4 days, saying he would like to receive it while his armor is being repaired. The woman tells him to give it to their guild, and they will have a master craftsman repair it like new. Plus, they will deliver it along with the contract. Eugene was surprised to see how hospitable she is being, and wonders if perhaps merchants were actually good people all along. His attention diverts as he sees Pelid working hard. Eugene took him in as a squire himself, but it seems he has been too indifferent lately. But as soon as he feels that way, he becomes shocked. It's just like the feeling he had when he saw others on the ship heading for Carlsbergen. All of a sudden, his demeanor darkens as he tells the vice manager he does not want to interfere with the work and will be heading out. He then thanks her for taking good care of his squire. The woman remains shocked as she watches Eugene leave. He never even said thank you when she offered a contract with the best conditions. And yet he says thanks just because of a single squire. Eugene is instantly surrounded by his fans who had heard about his participation in Count Winslow's night tournament. They all offered their lodgings for him. Meanwhile, some men in the back were talking about how Eugene is essential for their royalist factions, so they cannot give up. But if they approach him, the Vipers of Marin will notice. However, one of them says that they can go around them, as there is a family that would benefit if Marin falls into trouble. They decide to ask someone for help. Someone who has ties to the royal city. Count Evergrow. The Count was told that if people in Eugene, he has the potential to be an excellent pawn for his cause. The writer instructs Count that their goal is mutual, and that is to watch the cities crumble so the royal family can intervene. That Count's face lifts up as he is told how Eugene happens to participate in Count Winslow's tournament. Basically a tournament where it wouldn't be strange for someone to die at any moment. And so the writer instructs Count to contact the royal city to send someone trustworthy to win Eugene over. The Count believes that Eugene won't be hostile to the royal family since the daughter of Gabriel, who is on the royal family's side, has become the squire of the knight serving him. And so he instantly begins to write a letter as requested along with a special little postscript. Part 4 strip stated how you, Eugene, have no faith and distrust the Kaler Church, so it is necessary to properly teach him about faith. A mysterious man receives the letter and can tell the Count is not in his right mind from his messy handwriting. He could tell they must send the strongest knight, considering Eugene's achievements. He asks Knight Diricht for his opinion, who says he is currently tasked with tracking down a dark mage. However, his attention is caught as the man reveals Eugene made Asendra the Marquis uncollectible, the undead, while claiming it is thanks to receiving God's protection by proving his faith. Diricht said if the man wasn't a cultist, he would have burned the undead according to the law. The mysterious man provokes him further, saying that his Eugene might even be linked to the dark mage, and so he must participate in the night tournament and teach him the proper laws. Just like that, Diricht agrees to follow his command. Whose command? The Cardinal of Kaler. tailor. Surely things won't get easier from here onwards. Eugene is greeted at the Winslow Gate. After signing and sealing with a record keeper, he was told to head straight to the main castle or stay in town if he preferred. However, he must avoid causing any trouble within the town until the tournament is over. Upon questioning, the man reveals that a few hot-headed types have made some disgraceful mistakes in the past, so he's just saying it as a reminder. Eugene promises to keep it in mind and asks about the man's identity. The man takes one look at Eugene's sword and, after a while, reveals his name as Lancelot Dyrek. Eugene was instantly taken aback. The man was a noble with the last name. It is no wonder he felt different from the other soldiers, and so it seems the rumors were true about the Winslow family using nobles as common soldiers. Lancelot assures him that he can call him by his first name. After sharing greetings, Eugene makes his way inside. Miran was ecstatic to see how the place is twice as big as Archibald Castle. It suggests Eugene conquered this place as well. However, it goes ignored in response. Eugene was stopped at one of the gates, and the men told him that he has to pass a little test if he wants to go through here. Eugene became confused. The men mocked that too many bottom feeders showed up this year because of the prize. If Eugene passes the test, they will let him into the castle. They challenged him to get off his horse and draw his sword. Eugene questions if this is an order from Count Winslow and reminds them the guard said fighting in town is forbidden. The men call him an idiot, saying this is on the river between the castle and the town. The Count hits unskilled knights, so he allows this kind of culling the weak. Eugene understands, saying the men are trying to thin out the competition. He then calls out to Luke and instantly catches flying axes. But some of the men were still confident of winning. He then tells his assistant to stand back and charges at the bullies. He orders them to come at him all at once. However, he suddenly takes note of something and begins to dodge the men and halt in his movements. Miran and Luke become confused, wondering what is going on. Just then, a man sneaks up on him from behind, saying it is over. Eugene gives him the death glare and instantly strikes back. He then begins to quickly beat them all, eliminating the threat. He threw some of them in the water while he beats the shit out of some. Only one man remained who refused to retaliate in fear. Lancelot watches from a far distance and sighs, saying it was quite a flashy entrance. Lancelot heard instantly of the sound of Eugene's arrival, but they were shocked to see that he still had not come to pay his respects. They wonder if it is because he got injured. Lancelot denies. He says he doesn't know the reason, but Eugene suddenly changed direction toward the tent village in the outer castle. Most importantly, there is one major anomaly. The knight was carrying wolf slaughter. The Count was shocked and unable to believe it. He couldn't believe Eugene had Sir Taylor's famous sword. He suggested they ignore it if it is a fake, but if it is real, it is a reason for outrage. He has Lancelot verify it, as that is not something just anyone should be allowed to carry. On the other hand, Eugene had set up a tent outside the castle. Miran questions why they didn't go into the castle, as when will they ever get any chance to enter a castle like that? But seeing Eugene so furious and quiet makes the water spirit self-conscious about whining. Just what did he see that made him so angry? Eugene, on the other hand, was in deep thought. He almost ran into the castle with his sword drawn. He had clearly seen the Holy Knight who killed him Direct, but if he openly kills the Holy Knight in the Count's castle, the backlash will be severe. And so he must endure. A chance will definitely come eventually, and if it doesn't, Eugene will just have to make one. He gets cut off from his thoughts as he hears some voices from outside. They were talking about his crazily expensive armor and gear. He goes outside to see some knights. They felt somewhat familiar. That peculiar scent of oil mixed with armor, that specific gait, build, even the voice. Eugene instantly recognizes him as Lancelot. Lancelot removes his helmet, commenting on how he has a keen eye. He then reveals that he has come at the request of Count Winslow and has important business to discuss with him. The scene shifts to a flashback. Earlier, Lancelot was told by the Count to use force if it comes down to it. He was instructed to find out how Eugene ended up with wolf slaughter. If he took it unjustly, Lancelot was told to use force to bring it back. But if things are the contrary, he should present Eugene with his offer and act according to his response. Back in the present, Lancelot hears about how the bandits from Carlsbergen stole wolf slaughter from the thieves who hit the Fairchild estate, and then Sir Eugene wiped those bandits out. Eugene questions if he really came all the way here just for one sword. Lancelot states that's not it, and that rumors of Eugene's performance at the drawbridge are already spreading like wildfire throughout the castle. The Count was curious about him, but since he set up camp out here without paying his respects, Lancelot was sent instead. He then laughs at Eugene's unfazed behavior. Most people would be starstruck at the mention of a great novel, yet Eugene's eyes didn't even flicker. He gets to the point and says the Count wants them to be in the same unit for the mock battle. He explains that the tournament consists of jousting, swordsmanship, and mock battles. Lords and nobles considered the mock battle the most vital of them all. A large-scale clash of forces is the real reason they spend a fortune to keep knights under their command. Eugene questions why he should even bother and asks Lancelot if he is also not bothered by this arrangement. Lancelot says there is there's no way a knight wouldn't want to fight alongside the Wyvern Slayer. Eugene seemed to be a bit offended, considering that this guy already knew his identity from the start. Lancelot chuckles, saying he took a gamble based on rumors. Eugene asks one last question. Why should he team up with Lancelot? Lancelot answers that the mock battle carries the most weight among the three events. If Eugene is aiming for overall victory, the mock battle is a must-win. It will be in his best interest to join forces with him because he is quite the powerhouse. Eugene, however, doesn't take him serious and suggests him to give him a real reason. Lancelot swears that he is serious and is really quite strong. Eugene, however, did not care for it and reminded Lancelot how he had cleared the dungeon all by himself, taking the guy aback. Growing pissed every second, he questions Lancelot if there is any actual incentive for him to team up with him. Lancelot knew he must change his approach and said their scales of power are completely different. He bluntly confesses that Count Winslow is in quite a predicament. A large number of holy knights have suddenly entered the tournament. Many participants are already scrambling to be assigned to the same unit as the holy knights. To beat them, the Count would have to deploy his own Golden Moon Knights, but he is worried about exposing the Winslow family's full military might in the process. Therefore, he is hoping for an outsider to take the lead and secure the win. Lancelot promises to provide him with whatever he needs if he accepts the offer. Hearing this, Eugene immediately accepts, saying he heard the Count is a man who values chivalry and honor. He cannot ignore a man like that when he is in trouble. Lancelot was pretty astonished to see Eugene accepting so easily after hearing the situation. He wonders if he really is a knight of such a great character. This only makes him feel embarrassed for not being upfront from the start. Lancelot then swears on his honor to grant him one personal request separate from the prize money if he wins the mock battle. Lancelot is certain that if Sir Eugene wins the tournament, the Count will likely recognize him as the rightful owner of Wolf Slaughter. The scene shifts to Luke's offering food and drink as a treat to all the brave knights. Eugene had heard many knights were flocking to the Holy Knight's side, but at least half of them were here. He had learned the hard way that splashing cash buys favor, and that favor will be a useful weapon when the time comes to kill young Direct. The knights gathered and began to praise Eugene and introduce themselves. Luke then questions Eugene if he wants some food and drink to be separated for him for later. Eugene refuses. Miran talks about how the slave is quick and reliable, but it tells his master to be careful, as those who act all stoic like that are usually hiding a snake inside. However, it gets instantly shut up by Eugene with a smack on its head. It addresses Luke, questioning if he's curious why he brought him along. When Luke affirms, Eugene questions why he doesn't ask. Luke thinks for a moment and says he figured Eugene must have had a reason for only bringing him, and he believes that the reason, as always, is the right one. He confesses how he simply trusts and follows him. Eugene comes to realize that in some ways, Luke might be better suited as a vassal than Galpedic. He is skilled, well-built, and quite sharp, making an excellent squire. But their situations are different. Unlike Pelid, they will be traveling together constantly, so the risk of his identity as a vampire being exposed is high. If that happens, Luke might turn on him, and in the worst-case scenario, he will have to kill him. Eugene is not ready for that yet and decides to observe Luke a bit longer. Sometime later, some men came to look for Sir Eugene. They soon spot Luke and rudely question him about Eugene's quarters. However, when Luke does not answer them, they begin to trash talk about Eugene. Seeing his master being called pathetic and small-time famous, Luke becomes furious and punches the knight in the face. He was beyond enraged, and though he is a slave right now, his master is the only person who gave him hope in a land of despair. He will not tolerate anyone who insults such a man. The knight instantly draws his sword and orders Luke to state his name and his master's. Luke does not flinch in the slightest and spots the crest from the Kaler Church. It was the same rotten faction that labeled the lords of Brantia as heretics and invaded them when he became a slave. Because of the war they started, Luke felt like his life was over. He never thought he would run into his enemy here. However, soon more knights approached and intervened. They call out the Kaler knight for drawing a sword and talking about honor with a sloppy stance. They then begin to admire Eugene's slave. Kaler knight becomes shocked to hear that he got his ass whooped by a slave. This makes him only more furious. In this world, he knows, a noble killing a slave is of no consequence. But Luke wasn't such an easy target and drew his sword as well. He was determined to serve his master with all his heart, even if he dies here today. Seeing Eugene's extraordinary skill, sincerity, and an incomprehensible level of luck that can only be explained as divine protection, Luke was certain. If he follows a master whose limits are unknown, he will finally be able to reach the ideal he has always dreamed of. And so he continues to fight off the church knight, who was shocked by the mere slave's strength. He couldn't believe such a slave possessed this kind of swordsmanship. Hundreds of years ago, the Night King had 8 knights who possessed the courage of a lion and the wisdom of an eagle. One of them, and the man Luke respects most after the Night King, Sir Galpedic, started as the king's prisoner, then became a squire, and finally a knight. Luke's dream of becoming a Night King has long since faded, but for the master who gave him a new way to dream by serving one one who will someday be a Night King. He plans to dedicate his entire life to him. He ends up defeating the Church Knight, who fell on the ground. To the Church Knight's horror, he places his sword quite close to his head. Luke had the full intention of eliminating the guy, but he was stopped by Eugene. Eugene instructs him not to kill someone recklessly, as it could cause trouble later. He could instantly recognize the knight as the Holy Knight's squire. However, he soon spots a sneak attack, and he grabs the man's sword. His demeanor shifts as he says that the Holy Knight seemed to teach them to sneak attack from behind during a duel. He asserts that his squire is the mirror of his knight, and he is starting to wonder what kind of education he has been receiving. He takes the squire's sword and orders him to bring his master here if he wants it back. The squire knew his master would be furious if he went back without his sword. However, he had no choice but to grab his fellow knight and leave while the others laughed at them. Luke apologizes for overstepping his bounds, but to Eugene, his well-being was enough. He then tells Luke to prepare for tomorrow. Meanwhile, the squires make their way back to the Holy Knight, crying and wailing. He was furious and said they have defiled the honor of the Holy Knights. The Holy Knights had expected Eugene to be trembling in fear after hearing rumors about them looking for a way out. However, it seems clear he looks down on the church, but Direct suggests he calm down. But the knight was beyond furious, saying it is absurd enough they came all this way for some backwater knight, and now he is being told to endure this insult. Direct says it doesn't matter to those who couldn't even get a room at the village inn. He says he understands his anger, but they shouldn't give them an excuse. They can justly punish the blasphemer during the tournament. And so he tells the knight not to fall for such petty provocations, as their honor isn't that cheap. And so Sir Demos finally calms down and agrees to wait until the tournament. The scene shifts to Count Winslow making an appearance. Eugene finally gets to see him in person. Lancelot approaches Eugene and says how he heard he gave the Holy Knight's squires a lesson. Eugene casually reveals how it was his slave, not him. This amuses Lancelot even more. He could tell from the slave's accident that he was from Brantia, and now understood how a Holy Knight squire ended up like that. He points out how Luke must have participated in the prayer book, confusing Luke. Lance seemed to turn serious when he realized Luke had no idea what he was talking about. But before he could answer, they got distracted as everyone began to chant how the Holy Knights are appearing. Lancelot then tells Eugene how the one on the white horse is Jung Direct, the one on the gray horse behind him is Demos, and the one on the gold horse is Iode. Eugene's expression turns grave as he finally gets to meet his sworn enemy face to face. His enemy might not know him now, but Eugene can never forget his true nature. Lancelot further discloses that Demos is the master of the brat he took the sword from, and it seems like he is competing in the jousting event and will be out for blood. Apparently, this guy has cut down countless dark beings and sharpened his blade on things that are not human, and so he instructs Eugene to stay on guard. Demos tells his squire how he will get his sword back after the jousting match. He swears on Evil Destroyer and his faith that the blood of a wicked unbeliever shall be spilled beneath this blade. The squire realizes his master is pretty serious. By Evil Destroyer, he was referring to his sword that was granted only to official Holy Knights. It was the first time he had seen his master make a promise on that sword. He realizes the Backwater Knight is finished, and that is as good as a promise to show no mercy. His master will judge that arrogant unbeliever and make him pay for the humiliation he and Lloyd suffered. At least that's what he thinks for now.